All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to the episode 5 of TechPulse MSP Insights podcast. I'm your host, Chris Caminacci. Some of you may know me better as CG MSP Automator of MSPautomator.com. I am the Vice President of Engineering here at TechPulse. So as we step into 2025, we're bringing together an exceptional panel today to discuss the latest projects, updates, and trends shaping the MSP landscape in regards to Halo PSA. So today we've got a group of elite Halo PSA integrators, different faces from the last MSP Insights Halo Roundtable that we did. And we're going to cover some topics today, such as, the latest projects for 2025, strategies on addressing compliance and, risk challenges, the evolving role of AI in IT services and how they relate to Halo PSA, and effective client onboarding practices, things like scaling MSP businesses for sustainable growth, and how all of those topics kind of touch Halo PSA. Joining me today is my co-host, Elisa Valdez. She is our social media and marketing coordinator here at TechPulse. So a new face joining the team. And I'll start with some introductions of our panel here. So first up, we've got Timm from Sondela Consulting. Chris is not only the founder of Sondela, but also an author who has literally written the book on PSA profitability. He's going to hold it up at some point here, and he's going to tell you guys to go buy it on Amazon. That's his plug. There it is. It's there. His deep understanding and the maximizing of value of PSA tools is something we can all learn from. He's also, the resident Halo swag thief. So he's our spy on the inside over there at Halo headquarters. So thanks for joining us, Chris.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
We've also got Harvey joining us from HRV Consulting. Alex joins us, brings his wealth of experience of running an MSP to help others get started on the right track with Halo PSA. He also helped MSPs already using Halo PSA to maximize their investment from using it, from refinement, automation, to basically everything in between. So thanks for joining us today, Alex.
Thanks, Chris.
Next, we got Joe Burns from MSP Blueprint. Joe has co-founded and led 2 MSPs spanning 20 years, seeing his first through a successful 7-figure acquisition. And last year, he launched MSP Blueprint to help MSPs build their operational maturity and efficiency using Halo PSA. Thanks, Joe, for being here.
Thanks, Chris. Great to be here.
And last but certainly not least, we've got Mikey O'Toole. He's here as an independent expert, and Mikey is known as the Pope of Halo automation, has developed both the Halo PSA and Ninja One API PowerShell modules, pushing the boundaries of what's possible with Halo PSA. He's the OG Halo automation expert. He's basically the guy that started it all, right? We're very happy to have him here joining us for his 3rd appearance on MSP Insights. He's basically, at this point, a co-host and a permanent installation on the show. We can't get rid of him if we tried. So thanks for joining us, Mikey.
Glad to be here. And yeah, every show has that kind of permanent guest that provides the comedic relief and extra fool, and I'm here for it.
Excellent. So I guess let's go around the room here. Everybody give yourselves, a minute or two, introduce yourselves, tell us about your Halo journey, how you ended up here, and we can kind of go from there. Let's start with Joe.
Okay, Chris. So as you mentioned, a couple of MSPs in the bag over the last 20 years. First MSP, we eventually switched over to ConnectWise. And so I got experience there. And then when we launched Reformed IT in 2019, we decided that we were definitely not going to go for ConnectWise the second time around. We've learned what it did. So we stumbled across Halo PSA, and we've been using it for around about 4 years now in the MSP. And as to why I got involved in Halo PSA consulting, it was basically because Timm Wines basically forced me to. At some point, and said we could do with some more people doing consulting. So I eventually caved and thought, we'll give it a go, basically.
He does that. Alex, when did you go next?
Sure. So I run Snap IT, and then we moved from Zendesk. I know that's not a PSA, but we used to use Zendesk a few years ago. Went over to Halo PSA, and then I used to do a lot of Tech Tribe peer groups, and then I was kind of showing all the people I was with like Halo PSA, and then unofficially became like their help to move. And then Joe forced me into becoming a Halo PSA consultant.
Ironically, before I did it, I was like, I put to Timm, I was like, I'm not going to do it, but I'll get Alex to do it instead.
That's how I'm here. Yeah.
Didn't care what you go. That didn't keep you away from it. Still didn't get back.
It sucks you in, man. It's like a black hole. You just can't get out.
Christian been resistant to this so far.
Yeah, we'll get you someday, Mikey. One of us.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're coming to you, man. Hi. Thanks, Chris. So yeah, I'm Chris Timm. Like the others, I'm an ex-MSP business owner. So I ran and sold an MSP business back in 2012. And then I actually went and worked at Autotask in the UK for sort of 6 years. Spent a bunch of time working in the product management team, helping them kind of build the implementation and consulting teams in the UK. Left that company in about 2000 and late 17, early 18. And then started out on my own as an independent Autotask consultant at the time. And I think we all know what happened with the Autotask industry. It kind of all seemed to, the bottom fell out of it. So I then approached Halo and, to become a consultant. At the time, they told me Joe was going to be a consultant, and I had to really seriously think about whether I wanted. No, I'm kidding. I'm joking. So I then became a Halo consultant and been doing that, probably for about 18 months, 2 years, somewhere around there.
Makes time flies when you're having fun, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Fun's the word I'd use to describe it, maybe sometimes. Mikey?
Hey, so not a Halo consultant. Have so far resisted being sucked into consulting on Halo, despite people saying, "Oh, we could just give you access and you could just do it." So my journey with Halo is we use it across 2 MSPs, one in the UK, one in Ireland. We've used it for 4 or 5 years, and when we started using it, we took a look at kind of what it could do in the UI and the automation integrations, which were significantly smaller lists than we've got today. Decided we need to leverage the API, wrote an API module, and have somehow managed to end up writing about Halo automation and getting others into Halo automation and running a Halo community entirely accidentally and without any real skill behind it. Just a fluke. Cannot reinforce this much. I am just a monkey that hits a keyboard and occasionally working PowerShell comes out. There's no skill here.
Yeah, he's being modest. This person that made the probably most consequential integration for Halo in the history of ever, right?
It is nice when Halo support reply to my own tickets telling me I can solve it with my own PowerShell module without joining those dots. Those are all fun interactions. I like playing on those games. Tell me more about the module and what it can do. How does it work?
It's pretty cool module. I wonder who wrote this.
Excellent. So let's get into the first thing that, first point of discussion here. And really that's let's talk about 2025. We're on the cusp of 2.174, which is obviously a huge release for Halo. I think that's been mostly pushed out in the UK. We're starting to get it in the US here this week. Despite a little bit of a rough, bumpy start, it's been actually a lot of what people have been asking about, right? I think this is probably one of the biggest feature releases I've seen in 4 or 5 years working in Halo. So let's kind of just start with Chris Timm. What major projects or community contributions are you planning on rolling out in 2025, and how do those things address the evolving Halo PSA landscape, or what your clients need, and where have you been going with that kind of stuff?
Mm-hmm. Good question. And so I think major projects, just continuing down the road of Halo Consulting, still moving over a lot of people from Autotask, which is kind of what I do a lot of these days. So you've got a 55 seat and 120 seat about to come onto Halo as well. So that's going to be fun to onboard those kind of guys. We got a lot of challenges. Both companies are on Autotask, so I know them well. I know their Autotask challenges. So it's going to be fun to see the challenges that they have using Halo. So, and then some community contributions. Last year, I sort of dabbled with starting up a little bit of a user group in the UK. We had an afternoon in London. Joe Burns was there.
And I want to try and kind of focus a little bit more on that, on a Halo user group by users for users. So, kind of run by us as a community, kind of similar to what we have on the Discord channel, but much more kind of in face to face, in person kind of thing.
And have that weird authoritarian admin going around banning people.
Yeah,
I heard that guy has an OnlyFans, actually. Believe it or not.
Nobody needs that.
Yeah. So I think, that's one of my kind of, I think, contributions for this year is I'd really like to see that group start up, because I think there's a huge need for that in the industry. And in Halo, definitely a kind of a face-to-face. That's what this community is all about, right? Is helping each other out. So,
and that's, I think, definitely true more so in the Halo PSA community than really in any of the other MSP. The MSP industry in general, right, is very cooperative. Despite all of us being competitors and, striving to serve the same clients, there's usually enough meat for everybody to go around, right? And as an industry, I think the MSP industry has been really good about collaboration and sharing knowledge and stuff, but that's even more so true in the Halo community, right? The organic community that's grown around Halo is actually really remarkable. And I think that someday somebody's going to do, like some kind of sociology study on it, because it's, Mikey said he started on accident, right? The subreddit, Discord. And, I was there years ago when all this was popping up, and it was, 20, 30, 40 people. And then all of a sudden, what are we at, like several thousand? And, everybody's always sharing knowledge and stuff like that. So I think that sounds great. Having a community face to face be excellent. Obviously, on this side of the pond, we don't have anything like that, but maybe that's going to be on the 2025 for us too.
Well, I think the plan would be, face to face, obviously in the UK, and then we can have people dial in on Zoom or Teams or whatever. And if it gets big enough, kind of start it up over there and have some face to face meetings there, maybe off the back end of events or what have you. So yeah, I think it's, and I definitely think there's a huge need for that. And you mentioned about, competitors. I mean, we're all competitors. We're all friends as well. And I think we've all got a huge amount to contribute, and we can all work together on this community to kind of make it one of the best community. I mean, it's already the best community in the MSP space. So, the Halo side, we can make it one of the best communities out there. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So Joe Byrne, same question, what major projects or community contributions are you working on for 2025?
Yeah, well, obviously I try and limit the amount of time I spend with Timm, but yeah, no, I'm happy to help him out with these kind of events. It was a good event in London. Again, showcasing the thing that I think was done quite well with that was showcasing examples of how Halo can be used for kind of some advanced functionality and automations and workflows and what people are up to. It was a bit of a show and tell. So there's a lot of people. I did a bit, and there was a couple of other companies that had gone through some really clever stuff they'd done in Halo. And again, I think that's great for other people to see. There's plenty, obviously, Robbie and Connor do loads in terms of YouTube content alongside, you guys. And I think that's really good for everybody to see is that sharing of information, how transparent and open people are to sharing, what works. And again, I've tried to be more active in the Discord recently, because, the more I'm learning about Halo PSA in terms of implementation and configuration, the more I want to try and help other people to get through that. So yeah, trying to be more active on that. Project-wise and things that are like the focal point for 2025 for me, definitely around, automation. Automation is the massive thing that I think I'm amongst a company that appreciates that how great it is if you can automate things. But I think we're at the point where other people, MSPs, are starting to realize, especially in the UK, obviously from a politics perspective, costs are increasing for businesses at the moment. Growing the number of people in the business is cost prohibitive. So how do we do more with less people? How do we achieve more? How do we get more done more efficiently? So I think in the MSP world, automating and efficiency around that is huge. So we are, in my MSP, we're doing a lot on that side at the moment. And the other thing that, again, is key for me, I've done it for ages. I've got quite a financial mindset. So I'm always keen to understand and drill into reporting on things like gross profitability per customer and stuff. That stuff's really important to me, but I feel like a lot of MSPs miss that. They just don't understand how to do it, how to calculate it, why it's important. Exactly. Yeah. So by Chris, the one, it's so massively important, and yet so many MSPs seem to be missing out on that. So I want to try and do more to get to a point where people understand how to create the reports in Halo that give them that information at their fingertips to make better decisions.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that PSA profitability in general it's a black box. It's like dark magic to people. They don't really understand. They know they need a PSA to do billing and bring everything into one system, but they don't really understand or appreciate the gravity of what that can do for their business, right? Like, how can I tell where I'm spending that labor, how much it's costing me, what all of those kinds of things, and they're really not on the radar of most MSPs, at least in my experience, right? I'm like 400 implementations deep now, and over the last few years, and I would say maybe 5%, 10% of MSPs really have a good handle on what they should be looking for metrics wise. And I don't know about you guys, but pretty much every implementation that I go through, I get the question of, okay, so what metrics should I be tracking? Hey, make me a dashboard. I need metrics. Okay, what metrics? And it's things that like Bright Gauge and stuff have tried to tackle in terms of like, how do you give somebody visibility into their business? But the problem is that there's not one size fits all solution, right? Everybody runs their business differently. Those metrics are going to be all over the place, right? So
yeah. The other thing I'll touch on that as well, though. Yeah, because you're right. People want to know what do I measure? What should I be looking at? And when it comes to the profitability piece in Halo, in any PSA, but in Halo, when we're going through the implementation, one of the key things is you have to set that you have to have the right data in the right place. If you don't have the right data in the right place, your reporting is going to be useless anyway. So it's not like I can just give somebody the same report that we've got on profitability and it will work in their instance. They've got to follow the same patterns and put in the things in the same places and the same associated with the agreements. And it isn't just a simple switch. But when it comes to dashboards and KPIs, again, I feel like as a community, it's trying to share and give insights as to what people should be tracking and how they should be tracking that and what you're supposed to do as a result of that data. Mm-hmm. One example, so when I did the profitability report, one of the things that I stumbled across was a cost per. So I work out the cost of the time taken, but then I work out what the average cost is per hour for the time taken, because then that gives us an indication as to how senior the technicians are that I'm putting on that client's, like, responsible for that client. And all of a sudden you've got this metric, which is not to do entirely with profitability, but it just shows you actually you're putting way too senior technicians on this client. Why are you doing that? If you've got a reliance on that major senior technician, have they not handed things down to junior technicians? Like what's going on? And you start to drill into that information and make better business decisions for your MSP by understanding it.
Yeah, absolutely. I do a very similar report called an adjusted effective rate report for managed services. And you touched on, using the correct resource for task, right? Like, you shouldn't be using a tier 3 engineer to fix a printer if a tier 1 can do it, right? And that's something that I think that we picked up from TechPulse as going through the C-level program, right? That was big for us. Always use the appropriate resource for the task. But one of the biggest things that we've seen over the last 10, 15 years in the industry is this transition away from hourly, break fix shops to this full all-you-can-eat model, which is, great for your books because, you want that recurring revenue to come in every month, obviously. But what people fail to track is, like, am I profitable against all-you-can-eat? And, like, how do you track that? Well, it's very difficult because you need to understand what your fully burdened rate is for every engineer, every hour that they're working, every minute that they're working. And then you need to compare that to what, the actions that they're doing on tickets. So you can really actually get an effective rate per hour for those all-you-can-eat agreements. And I call that my holy grail report. And it's one of those big wow reports where you can see, like, you populate all your agent, fully burdened rates in the agent record. And then we run this report and it's going to show you, based on what your revenue is for managed services, what your effective rate is. And that's always, like, it's a mind-blowing situation for people because they don't realize that they could be making $50,000, $60,000 a month in recurring revenue for a client, but not be profitable. And I know because we were there several years ago. We had a client, like a 10, 15-year client, and it's like 50, 60 grand a month in recurring revenue. But they were using so much time against the agreement, it wasn't actually profitable. And so we fired them, and actually our books look better for it. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. I mean, Alex.
Sorry, if I can jump in very quickly, I was going to say that's the reason I wrote the book, right? For that exact same reason. I had a client that I thought, oh, this client's massively profitable. They're paying us.
Chris, you wrote a book. You should tell us.
Yeah, they paying us thousands of money. No, then it's just a little piece of paper, only a couple of sheets. But they were paying us thousands every month, and I was, like, this customer's got to be profitable, right? They're paying us thousands every month. We're not doing a huge amount of work. Until we actually started tracking that stuff in the PSA at the time was Autotask, and we realized kind of actually how unprofitable that customer was, because we were spending so much time doing work for them at all hours of the day, and our most expensive engineer was doing the work and stuff like that. So yeah, it's great when you can run those reports and kind of find that information pretty quickly and stuff.
Cool. Absolutely. Okay, Alex, what's on your agenda for 2025? What are you looking for? Major projects, community contributions? What are you planning?
Sure. So I'm gonna bash the automation road as well. So I'm quite a lazy person when I want to be. So it's having automation do things for me, and then thinking about our MSP as well. Leveraging SIP automations and everything to help us do things. So we don't need to, it's just repetitive, isn't it? Any repetitive task, just make sure automation handles it. I guess in community contributions, I do really want to start being a bit more active in Discord, but I've kind of had a little bit of a break on most social media and stuff. So I pop up now and again, but mostly in our chat. So the next thing is to do mainly like an academy for techs getting started on Halo PSA. Because since I'm, involved quite a lot in reselling and implementations at the minute, it's for those techs coming on board, using it. I know most techs are used to PSAs, and they're not too dissimilar, and they all kind of do the same thing, right? So, but it's just having some kind of I've had it multiple times where a client goes, can you give us something for this? So instead of us doing a training session, so it's evergreen, it's it's again a repetitive thing, isn't it? So that's what I want to be tackling this year.
I think it'd be great. I get a lot of requests for that too, right? And you just tell people, well, text take the Halo like a fish to water. It's they find it to be very intuitive, right? But it's got to be in the context of what they're doing. So yeah, that's great, excellent. We're looking forward to that. Mikey, how can we exploit you more to get more community contributions for you?
So I mean, for MSP, 2025 is going to see a complete change in our billing model. We are moving away from all you can eat. We're also transitioning to our structure. So currently it's entirely owned by me. And by the end of 2025, we'll actually be a cooperative owned by our staff team, which is going to be a fun transition. We work mainly with nonprofits. So kind of trying to get closer to their structure is a key goal. And honing down, really going to focus in on our vertical again. We kind of diversified, thinking, that'll assuage some risk. It'd be better in the long run. Nah, it's actually diluted our core focus and kind of split us in a really weird way. So we're gonna narrow back down our vertical. It's gonna be fun. And then in a community sense, there's a new Discord bot in the works, which will leverage a whole bunch of Halo API to kind of search through release notes. So you'll be able to ask it stuff like, when did a certain feature appear in Halo? And it'll quite happily tell you and what's coming up, and it'll go into the beta release it, which is pretty funky. It's also aware of the module though. So you will be able to ask it kind of, how do I leverage Halo's API in order to accomplish this task? And it will combine commandlets from the module to give you a working route in PowerShell to achieve that task. And, in the long run, I'm hoping that I can replace all of you costly implementation partners with a single AI bot in Discord. So,
Please, honestly,
it's all numbered.
Yeah, if I never do another implementation for the rest of my life, it would be too soon.
I've tried it, and if you ask it anything even vaguely complicated, it just does a Chris. It just kind of holds up a book you should go and read, and then it's going to be an exciting year for leveraging AI as a community, I think, and just trying to make. A lot of us we know where to go to find this information because we've done it 1,000 times, and trying to kind of broaden people who are aware that those resources are out there and save people from doing what you and I did, Chris, when we first tried to open that damn Swagger file that describes Halo's entire API. When you try and open it in your browser, and you can be running 100 gig of RAM and your browser's like, no, go away.
To their credit, right, in the last year or so, it actually will download now. It's still non-standard formatted, so it doesn't work. You can't do any Swagger gen from it, but we're making baby steps, okay?
Yeah. It still doesn't right. Everything is a string. Even
a string.
Even if you pass it a string, it's going to return a fatal error. The API the documentation still says that's a string.
Yep. Yeah. That's an interesting situation. But yeah, I mean, I agree. So obviously we're working on a lot of AI stuff that we're going to be announcing here probably in the next few weeks, and we're really excited about our Quantum Ops platform that is going to be bolting into Halo to do a lot of really fancy AI stuff. And
billing bot stage where I can literally just give it a prompt to do my billing, and it'll just do that. How close?
We're getting there.
I need it.
We're getting there. Yeah. So we released automatic billing for BillingBot 2 or 3 months ago. So now you can just set it up, check a box, and we'll just do everything automatically every month. And the next big release coming by the end of Q1, it's going to be able to actually buy and manage licenses for your CSPs too, right from inside of Halo. So you hook up your onboarding ticket, it'll go check if there's a license available. If not, buy it from Pax8 or whoever your CSP is, and automate that whole process too. So yeah, we're pretty close. Typing in a prompt and telling it to go do your billing for you, I only foresee that creating me hundreds and hundreds more support tickets than I already get. Yeah, I'm sure you are. If I had to go back and do it again, I would not pick doing a billing application first as my first product, because it is so dependent on the way that people say with Halo.
An interesting trigger.
It was just like, oh, this is so easy, because it used to be a PowerShell desktop app called Invoice Bootstrapper. Like, oh, it's going to be so easy. We'll just, convert it to a cloud app and we'll offer it to our implementation class because, they're facing the same problem. Why? It's the worst thing I ever did, because you see 300 Halo instances, 300 different configurations. Everybody's doing everything differently. And like it took us probably a year after release to even get to the point where we're like, okay, now we feel good about that we can account for everybody's weird billing schemas, right? But for sure. So, we're on the cusp here of 2.174. I think you guys have gotten it for the most part in the UK. We're starting to get it this week in the US. My support tickets are blowing up already for some, silly little things here and there, which is pretty typical when we have a big release. But, what new features or enhancements that are coming down the pipe are you guys excited to see from Halo in 2025? And I'm sure AI is going to be a big answer to this, but, Alex, we'll start with you. What do you think is going to be the big game changer for Halo this year? Or what are you excited to see coming down the development pipeline?
AI, that's all. No, that's I mean, that's the thing. AI is like, everyone talks about it, everyone thinks about, there's so much to it, and having it natively in Halo is going to be great. And I know there's, some good things already in Halo, but, there's some really good announcements at Orbit as well. If you ever went, there's some really good stuff with Ninja RMM and things like that. So I think, the roadmap for me, since I already use quite a lot of tools which Halo have heavily invested in terms of like building out their integrations like Ninja Zero, things like that. Luckily, my roadmap excitement, is there, but luckily all the tools I'm using day to day are already heavily invested in with Halo. So yeah, and then, Pax8 licensing provisioning, I know that's already there, but I know Siege with your, billing bot, I love that. And, day of having billing do itself is going to be magical, isn't it? As you said, you can do it. So that's
excellent. Joe, what are you excited about for Halo this year?
So there's a couple of things going on that I think will help clients. One of the things is the Azure consumption piece, bringing that into Halo. A few implementation clients have asked around that sort of piece. I think that's going to be important. I was on a call with Halo earlier today, and one of the things that repeatedly gets asked, and it's also something that's frustrated me in the MSP space, has been projects and project templates, and how that moves from a sales order to a project, because it's a bit rigid. Like, you have to have a project template linked to a product, and a lot of people struggle with, right, I want to create a project that does this off the back of it. So that's a bit rigid. So a couple of things that I'm looking forward to is they're building that piece out so that that's going to be a bit more flexible going forward. Hopefully, I think by the end of this, by the end of Q1 or Q2, I think they're looking at some of that starting to roll out. One example of something that is coming soon, again, spoke to Halo today about this, is though they did a good demonstration about during Orbit with scope of works on a project. So you've got a list of to-do items on a project and turning those into child tickets, tasks within their overall project, or completely automated. And that used AI to kind of pull back the information and to create all of that for us. Now, they did say that because that's available, you can put that into your system, and I think it's in trials as of now anyway. But I think that's going to get rolled out to everybody as a tick box, as an option. So we'd just be able to say, I want the ability to create project subtasks from a scope of works, and it just do it. And I think that'll be a huge weight off a lot of MSP shoulders, because that project piece is a bit of a nightmare at the moment to manage. One other thing, I haven't actually used it yet, but I was really excited for when it was announced, is that the SQL query for variable quantity, like SQL query to do a quantity on a line item. I feel like that just unhinges infinite possibilities around what you can do in terms of billing quantities, even though Morgan said it scares the life out of him as to what people might do with it and how many problems they might create with it. But I think that's a pretty cool update as well.
I can actually hear Morgan saying that. It's very on brand for Morgan. The projects thing is definitely one that comes up a lot, right? Especially during implementations. People have a really difficult time wrapping their head around, I have to have an item with project linked to it, and put that on the quote and sales order, and then spawn it from there. And I understand from a back-end technical perspective why it's that way, but I'm really excited. Yeah, I'm excited for that to get built out, because that's probably one of the top complaints I hear from people that are switching to Halo from something else, is that the projecting leaves a lot to be desired, and getting things from the sales pipeline to a project is, even though it can be templated, is quite laborious, right? You can only template so hard. So yeah, I agree. I think that's going to be great stuff. Chris, what about you? What are you excited to see?
Yeah, I mean, I think following on from what everyone said, I think AI is a big one. But just following on from the projects, the discussion I had with Halo a while ago was around the kind of milestone billing in projects as well, because we all know it's pretty crap at the moment. So they're going to have the ability to actually properly bill for milestones, where if you had a £5,000, dollars, whatever project, you can then bill that in specific milestones, bill against the milestone and bill that amount down. So that's something I'm looking forward to. I think there's a lot of people, especially those that are coming over from Autotask, which does that really well. They miss that when they come into Halo, because it just doesn't kind of bill fixed price projects very well. So I think there's that, and then I think as the the Pax8 stuff that's coming down the line, I think that's going to be quite exciting as well. So hopefully,
Yeah, I will agree that the one thing that Autotask does shine on is definitely that project kind of stuff, right? And the milestone based billing and stuff like that. I'm excited. I'm really excited for the project team to really get built up. Because like I said, this is one of people's biggest complaints about Halo when they're switching, is the projecting is just tickets with a different face on it, right?
Yeah.
And the fixed fee versus time and materials project, having to use charge rates versus budget tables and their charge, and it's hard to wrap your mind around. We actually, at TechPulse, participated in the development of Movila, their Halo PSA integration, right? And Movila is a great product. It's awesome, but it's not something that a 3 or 4 person MSP can pick up and use because it's prohibitively expensive for them. But if you're a 70, 80 person MSP, that's might be a great option for you. But yeah, so I'm excited to see that kind of develop further. Mikey, what are you excited for?
Really excited for the projects stuff. We're currently using a separate platform to handle kind of projects, proposals, and also to kind of play up the full kind of automated billing part. So I'd love to see the project stuff come through Halo. Already kind of excited for what they've talked about. Already seeing points where we're going to start doing our own integrations then with Microsoft To Do, Microsoft Project, so we can get a nice visualization on it. I love Halo's aesthetics as a tech, but if the aesthetics of what's inside Halo are anything like what projects will look like to my customers, no way is that happening. So yeah, something that'll give customers a little more of an interactive framework, but also where we can assign tasks to them. That's it. It's going to be kind of cool. I really want to see them take that swing at kind of billing and payments that they've been threatening to take for the past 4 or 5 years. It needs to get over the goal line. Like, there's going to come a point where MSPs just can't stick with a PSA that basically says, yeah, you have to go to some third party to handle automated recurring billing in a nice way. That's not sustainable for anyone. So I hope this is the year they finally take a swing at that one.
Yeah, this is definitely something that is a point of contention for a lot of MSPs switching to Halo, was that the payment integrations and stuff like that, right? Stripe being pretty much the only native in portal integration for the most part is a tough pill to swallow, especially on this side of the pond because of the way that the fees and everything have to be done with the Stripe API. What a nightmare. We've seen a lot of players pop up there, but there's still a lot to be desired.
I was going to say, I mean, to be fair though, I don't think any PSA tools really mastered it. I mean, Autotask and ConnectWise have third-party payment gateways into them as well, right? So, I don't think this is just a Halo problem. I think that
is not a great model. Like Halo kind of looking at the market and saying, oh, it's not necessarily the best priority because everyone has the same problem is not a great defense to me. Like, that's the major criticism for ConnectWise and Autotask is that you need these expensive third parties to get everything done. So Halo having a major area of the product that suffers from the same is not great.
I think that would be a great thing for Halo if they could develop that, as you say, because then people can do everything natively into a product. But there's none of the PSAs on market at the moment have anything native. They all rely on some kind of third-party payment gateway. And I think it'd be really nice to see that built into not just Halo, but all the PSAs. Being able to natively take the payments directly in the PSA.
Yeah.
But wouldn't that take quite a lot to implement with all the compliance, security, everything like that to become?
I don't even think they need processor. Yeah, I don't think they even need to become a payment processor, right? But just kind of allowing the other payment processors to integrate at a level that Stripe is integrated.
Yeah.
Everything can be done from inside the PSA because this is at TechPulse, we use Connect Booster still until our contract with Big K is up here in a few months. We're going to, I think, switch to alternative payments. But that's a big point of contention is like, I don't want my clients to have to leave the Halo portal and go to this other payment portal and, take their payment there or do whatever that is, right? That's where the Stripe integration at least for small shops is really attractive because nobody has to leave the payment portal or to start the portal of end user portal in Halo. But the problem is you pay a price for that. The Stripe integration sucks. So, and it's not Halo's fault. It's just Stripe API is a terrible, terrible thing to work with. So, I think if they extend the integration capabilities there for people like alternative payments and Benji Pays and all of them to kind of natively bolt in, we'll see big improvements in that regard. But yeah, this is the problem that plagues all the PSAs is you got to use some kind of third-party payment process. People are shopping on fees are, the prices, all that kind of stuff. But still, it comes down to people are willing.
We've got issues. technical problem.
Stand by, we have technical problems. Our host,
Who's taking over the hosting now? That's the question.
Gosh, to cut them off.
yeah. So
Wow.
did anyone know that that I wrote a white paper?
No,
Oh, we heard. I heard that you wrote about a book or something.
Oh, well, that's
could
good.
be a myth.
I wasn't me.
If he'd written a book,
I plagiarized the book actually.
when
somebody else
SPI generated.
Yeah, exactly.
I thought I had it behind me, but I don't know where it is.
It's in the toilet. I can't believe that I was reading an article from Superops and came across you quoted in that, Chris. That was interesting.
Changing sides, are we, Chris?
The height of fame, Chris.
Chris didn't know about it. He didn't know.
No, I think I got quoted. I was on a webinar with them. I think there was only about 4 people on the webinar, probably because I was on it. But and then they quoted me on this blog post, and I was like, yeah, I didn't even know that, and it happened. So, yeah. I see we've got our host back. Oh, have we?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, what?
Did you get DDoS by
The camera turned off because I don't know. Not an ABG.
Oh.
So it's funny because Superops has reached out to me like 9 or 10 times on LinkedIn and email, and they even call my support line looking for me on occasion. And they're like, "Hey, would you be interested in doing some Superops content?" And I'm like, "Do you even know who I am? Have you done any research? Like, because you would obviously, if you did like even the smallest amount of research, would know that I'm not interested in doing Superops content." Bizarre. I got the same thing from Synchro too. I was like, there is a long list of hilarious things I would rather do than be on a Synchro podcast. But, I digress. So, what are we here? So, let's see. The last Halo Integrator Roundtable was about 6 or 7 months ago, and a lot has changed in the Halo ecosystem since then, right? It feels like we're going at light speed. 6 months ago, Halo was a completely different product than it is today. And 2 years ago, I don't even think people would recognize the product as it is today, other than the UI, right? Like Mikey mentioned, 3 or 4 years ago, when we started our journey with Halo, the integrations tab was very bare. Still pretty respectable, but now you have to like actually search on that screen because there's so much stuff. And that doesn't even have the things that integrate third party from the other side. So in the last 6-7 months,
Search that screen.
yeah, search that screen. In the last,
I don't know. It's hilarious to me that in terms of admin portals, Halo's kind of getting to the complexity of the Microsoft ecosystem of portals, just in terms of the amount of stuff in there. Microsoft, I can go and I can search and it returns, unlike on Windows, it actually returns the admin portal I need and takes me there. On Halo, I have no idea where anything is. I'm guessing you guys have got a bit of a leg up because you're in and out of so many instances that you probably know where a lot more is. But
It's
for me,
it's the logic.
I've no idea. Not a clue.
It's the logic of moving these settings into there's stuff that's moved from forms, fields, settings, in the ticket types. And why is it there? It doesn't make sense.
It reminds me of a call actually. I was on with Morgan this was months back when we were doing our YouTube videos, and we were both trying to find the setting, and we were like, where the heck is the setting? We both know it's on. And then we were like, and even Morgan was like, I don't know where the setting is. We then realized they had added a settings tab, and neither of us knew that the settings tab had been added. And we were like, there are just so many settings. They need a specific tab just for the settings.
So that's the AI feature they need to be focusing on hard is. I don't need more AI in the ticket integration. I need an AI that I can ask, just tell me where I'll find a particular setting.
Yeah. But you can now. I've got the AI. Have you not switched that bit on yet? There isn't an AI admin bot that's actually okay at finding settings.
Halo trained an AI on their user interface, and it answers with something that is not, please help. It actually, wow, great.
Yeah, it's actually not bad. It's actually a good way of finding something.
It's going to be the one that kicks off the.
Yeah, for sure. This one's, I think there's no documentation, but I know where the setting is visually. Yeah. No, I think there is.
They'll feed it the Swagger file at some point, and that'll be the
trigger, right? Yeah,
it'll just be like, no, I'm over.
yeah. I'm going to start manufacturing killbots right then. That's going to be the thing that does it. I think there was like two.
I found the nuclear launch code in Halo's source code. I'm going for it.
They're all strings, weirdly enough. But I think there was like two inflection points over the last year where the settings thing kind of like just fell apart all around us, right? One was when they moved or they changed the way that ticket type settings were, right? Because it used to be like 2 or 3 big tabs, and now it's all tabbed out. And none of the settings make any sense for what tab they're like, why is this on the forms tab? This makes this. Why wouldn't this be on the defaults tab if it's setting a default? And I think Connor put it best when he says that's Halo gaslighting you, because that's what it really feels like. I started working in 2.174 instances this week because the US customers are starting to get them. And I'm looking around in runbooks. I'm like, geez, where is anything anymore? There's 400 more checkboxes. Everything is named differently. Is this? And then you go to somewhere like general ticket settings, and it's just 700 checkboxes in a row, right? And it's like, I feel like tooltips or something might be helpful here.
Well, I remember having the conversation with Morgan at DataCon in Dublin a couple of 3 years maybe back, and I said, like, how it can't be that difficult to have a tooltip option so that every new setting that you just hover over something, it's how it does rather than having. Yeah, and
It's gone again.
I've gone again. You need to actually plug the camera into the wall.
Man, that Halo AI.
It's Halo DDoS. Yeah. I got gaslighted today by Halo as well, as in like print, like, you know, when you select all assets to print labels and stuff, that's not on my instance, but it is on one of my customers. So then you're like, what?
So
I love it when it's
we've got 2 Halo instances that are in the same region but seem to move at different paces. So like I'll be talking to my kind of counterpart on the Irish MSP, and I'll be like, so you go here and you click here, and this is where you go. And he's like, that's not a thing. You're making it up. So I screen share on it, but then he'll do the same thing to me, and we haven't learned yet. We haven't accounted for the differences. So he'll come to me and he's like, yeah, they added that last release, and I'm like, no, it's not there. It's not a thing. Yeah. Halo gaslighting is interesting.
Worst one for me was I spent a whole weekend building a run book for something to create a project, and then I was messing about in Halo today, and I scrolled by a setting that was basically would have automated what I'd done in the run book. And why didn't I not even know that was this?
I've been telling them for years, by the way, like, hey, can we just get tooltips on Hover? Because I don't expect you guys to document every, little checkbox and how it, because they're like, there's so many situations in Halo where checking one box alters the behavior of 17 other boxes on other tabs that, are not explicitly documented. Okay, I can live with that. Can you just give me a tooltip on Hover? Like, we've gotten better, honestly, over the last year or so, there's been huge improvements, both to documentation and to those, the descriptions of what things do. So at least it's getting better. 2, 3, 4 years ago, nothing was.
That's the only way it's going to work, though, right?
Yeah.
Because if Halo came to you and were like, we'll pay you, £1 million a year, you have to go through, understand what every single setting does and document it. No, I'm sorry. No, that's not enough. Times it by 100 or 1,000, and we're getting close to the number. But no,
it's the negative expressions on some of the settings as well, where it says something like parents do, they'll like switch off.
Or the settings that have double or triple negatives within them because they're so long.
Yeah,
and you're like, wait, this setting makes it so that time added to the ticket type is billable if it's not billable, or if it's using a non-charge rate. Some of them, you read them and you're like,
what intern wrote this? And how did it ask you?
And it's almost like, when you've got 2 light switches, there's some settings that like where you've got 2 light switches on a landing, and one turns the same light off as another one turns it on. And so you can, like, there's some settings where you have to switch one off and one on to get the desired result.
It's slightly worse than that. It's the two light switches at the top of your stairs. One controls one of your hall lights, and the other one turns your car's headlights on.
Like you stand there for hours thinking their button going, what does this do? And your neighbors are lots of flashing lights.
You're referencing that because my lights.
Yeah, it's not this is in Halo. That's what's doing it. Like, yeah, sorry, box or
That's
not so
running.
yeah.
I was going to say, just on the documentation side, though, if I can, like, so what Autotask did to solve this problem is they basically got, a whole documentation team in who pretty much sat with the developers, right? So every time a developer went, right, here's a checkbox that we're going to put into the product, the person who was writing the documentation was like, okay, we're gonna write what that checkbox does, and we're going to actually document it there and then. So they were like kind of almost sitting next to each other, and as they were being rolled out, they were writing that. You can't really do that now because there's so many of them, but right from the beginning when you're starting up a tool like this, you can kind of do that and have them sitting next to each other and going, these are what each of these settings do.
It was me thinking,
Autotask only released about
documenting them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Autotask only released about 4 features every 2 years, though. I heard they're in about 600 a minute.
Yeah, no, sure.
Oh, he's gone again.
This guy.
Most of this show isn't going to include Chris in it. No, we should just carry on talking amongst ourselves.
Welcome to the Sometimes TechPulse podcast.
I think
TechPulse optional.
I think we should get AI to actually replace Chris and his host.
It wouldn't fly. He'd suddenly start making sense.
I mean, we could even have it with a British accent, right? Because I mean, well, I don't have a British accent, but
no, you're an adopted Brit.
Yeah. Yeah, I defend the Brits. I'm British. At least I can spell properly, right? So I can spell color with a U and say Z instead of Z and crap like that. And so
You got to take cheap shots when he's not here, right?
yeah,
Exactly. It's so that when he goes back to the recording later, he sees everything that we were saying.
This is going to be the
We'll never see the light of day.
Trust. Oh, Alex, just so you know, I'm going to put this on the recording, but we can I can see your screen.
Well, that's fine. You can see Pornhub on the right.
I like when Chris is there with like Star Trek style enhanced.
Well, what is it? Yeah,
If I start with us,
Exactly. You never know.
you can't this.
It's going to zoom in. Somebody's going to zoom in and have a look at his screen, and he's going to be.
This is where Chris comes out with the creepy. I can still see your
We get
screen. I was never using the window.
the American spellings on the document to the right. That's all.
Can you see me move the mouse, Alex? I've got your computer and I've got your screen.
Oh no!
Yeah. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if we're getting like overheats or something, but I can hear you guys the whole time. But do you need all talking shit, by the way? Oh, that's true. I thought that was the camera. I love it. Down, yeah, I know what's going on. But I don't know. But I heard everything, and what Americans, we may have this simplified. So about I heard about the porn thing. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
it's what you have to do when you got heavily pregnant wife.
That's really
I'm not saying anything in case he somehow watches this later.
I don't think there's an amount of money I could pay my wife to watch this podcast all the way through. Like, if we had our eyes would glaze over like a minute and a half.
Your wife watched me though.
Yeah.
It's like the settings in Halo. She's like, yeah, no, I'm $1
I'd watch it.
So I was trying to get Kerry to do billing and stuff for me as we
Danger with rockets.
Yeah. And I'm like, do I want her to be involved in kind of what we transact?
Yeah, I don't need AI to automate my business. I got a wife; she can do it.
Oh dear. Oh dear. I won't help you that bit, Chris, because I'm going to use it against.
He's okay though.
Well, I mean, we'll feature in the court cases.
Damn right.
Okay, so let's move on to the second thing that we want to talk about here, which is like addressing compliance and risk challenges. And I think this is something that Mikey is super excited to probably talk about because he's the compliance nerd among us. So I guess, starting with you, Mikey, what are the biggest compliance challenges, that are facing MSPs now in 2025, especially in relation to Halo PSA and, the management and administration of that kind of stuff?
So, compliance has been really kind of interesting for me over the past 6 to 8 months. We've always had a nice compliance focus. So we've always been geared up to measure using Halo against various compliance frameworks, from UK Cyber Essentials through to full ISO 27001, leveraging data from various systems. Halo is great for this. So for your own MSP, make sure you're leveraging your PSA as a compliance tool, because they rock at it, and Halo's way better than most. You don't need an expensive third-party compliance tool. It's in your PSA if you use it right. But for our clients, helping them and kind of talking through compliance with them is even more key than ever. Like, how many MSPs are rolling out AI tools or tools internally within your own stack that have AI without talking to your clients about what their AI posture is and whether they've got an acceptable use of AI policy, whether they've thought through, ethical data protection, GDPR ramifications that go along with those AI tools that we're feeding our entire lives and businesses to. So I think AI is obviously going to be the biggest compliance challenge, because it spans every possible compliance category. It's got implications for data privacy and data residency. It's got implications for financial compliance rules, for ethics compliance rules, for security compliance rules. I think it's going to be a really interesting space to watch MSPs catch up to the tools they're using in a compliance sense, because I think every industry, and MSPs are definitely don't get to escape from this, but every industry plays compliance catch up, right? We all see our clients do it. We all see them like, yeah, we're going to roll out this new email setting client. And then 6 months later, they're like, did we ever do any kind of compliance checking on that thing? Because it turns out it's owned by a Saudi Arabian dictator who's been selling all the data to China. Whoops. MSPs, we have the same thing. Like, at some point, we're going to catch up, and it's going to be interesting to see what tools like Halo get pushed on in terms of adding compliance options. Because I think Halo has done quite well in their AI rollout. It's been quite measured. We've got a lot of control. It's not nightmare fuel like the Synchro thing, where at best you can turn it on or off. Although it turns out for a little while, off wasn't actually off. But realistically, like, they've kind of got black box open AI style. You can't really see what it's doing behind the scenes. Halo at least kind of came out very quickly with the ability for us to give our own models, where we can actually, control what it's doing behind the scenes to a greater degree. But yeah, I'm interested to see what that compliance journey looks like for the sector at large. Because yeah, I definitely think the tools are still in that kind of where their CTOs are like, we've just got to put AI in everything. Doesn't matter if it's not actually an AI feature, but we've got to brand it as AI. A bit like Microsoft's marketing team that suddenly decided midway through last year that everything had to have Copilot.
Pilot everything. Everything is a Copilot now.
Yeah.
Copilot team.
And they all kind of blur together, and it turns out that you need about 4,000 licenses just to get one of them working. But
there's the evolution of that Copilot Studio, Azure AI Studio. Like, how many times have they renamed that product? Like, every time I go in there, and I'm somebody that's literally building an AI product, and like I interact with this stuff on a daily basis. Sometimes I go in there in the next week and there's a completely new product, new name, new studio, and this and that. Like, this is just ridiculous. It's moving at the speed of light. But I think in terms of compliance on this, we're obviously on this side of the pond, we're the Wild West, right? Like, we have data protection laws. We don't have privacy or compliance requirements. Except when it comes,
California does.
Yeah, California does.
Trying to civilize.
Yeah. And I mean, around like payments and stuff.
And they're not inspired. It's a shame.
It's still the Wild West. But, I see people, especially going through implementation, that are like, hey, we need to bring all of our 15 years of ConnectWise data over to Halo, and we're going to use this help desk migration service, right? Which is pretty much the only option right now. And I'm like, you guys know they're based in St. Petersburg, right? Like I was going to be a state-sponsored data exfiltration operation. That's what I would do, right? And so there's concerns around that too. And spoiler alert, we're working on releasing here like a ConnectWise to the Halo back and forth migration tool, and it's going to be GDPR compliant, all that stuff, and having to like learn all of this stuff. It's like, wow, this is actually probably what it should be for everybody. Which the United States would legislate on that, but there's it's not going to happen. So, that's interesting. Joe, anything to add to what Mikey said?
I think I was touched on some good points. I think for me, one of the biggest fears I've had for the MSP industry generally in terms of threats, because obviously as MSPs, you're responsible for a bunch of organizations, IT and to, well, almost entirely now cybersecurity as well, really. Like, the MSP is responsible ultimately. I know not legally responsible, but you're relied upon to make sure that businesses and organizations have got some protection against cybersecurity threats. And the big thing that's worried me for a while has been RMM. RMM and the implications of agents being deployed that have extreme power on every single device that they manage is just a huge surface area of attack and we've seen examples of that come to fruition and happen over the last 5 years. That bit does make me nervous. That makes me nervous about the industry. And to some degree, it's part of our strategy in the MSP is to not take that many clients on and be focused about what you're doing, how you're doing, how do you protect yourself against your RMM in the sense that if something happens, what can you do to mitigate the risk of an RMM being compromised? So for me, almost a sidestep from the compliance piece, but that's the bit where, as an MSPs, we need to be thinking about, the very least, what do we do about it? How do we control it? What's your break glass? What would you do if you find out that something's happened to alleviate that problem and mitigate risk?
But I think you make a really interesting point there, almost at the end, without making it, which is, you said you were sidestepping from compliance. You're not. You're still squarely in compliance, and I think it's terrifying that actually, as an industry, we don't necessarily equate security and the tools we're using with our compliance posture. They seem disconnected when actually they're really not. And that is nightmare fuel stuff. So thanks, because we all needed more reasons to not sleep.
Chris, what do you have to add to that?
I don't know. I think pretty much everyone's said a lot about it. Compliance not really my area, but I think that I agree with Joe. I think RMM is scary. I think the more machines we have stuff on, the more access we have to people's data on their machines and things like that. I think, the more scary it is, and I think we need to kind of look at that as an industry of how we can, how we can work better on that. I think
it's interesting. Even now in 2025, like we're what, 2 weeks in? Not one of those weeks has gone past without someone popping up in the Ninja One Discord and saying, this MFA check, when I do something impactful, like run a script or save a script or, make a change to a device, how do I turn that off? You're just like, no, stop. Like stop. Just stop. Just get out.
Yeah. As well as make sure you don't turn it off. Also, IP restrict your RMM so that so it's locked down.
Yeah. But also RMM vendor, make sure that's an option that that actually works as well. Like
I still have on the Halo side, I still have customers that haven't even turned on like any kind of 2FA and things like that. They're still logging in and then, sharing their passwords with me on a call going, actually, you can just log in and this is my password and it's chat 1234 or something like that. So I actually think, for me, from a Halo perspective, it should literally be the airplanes can grab it.
That's a Halo strike in revenge.
Exactly.
Flag. That's the new.
I think that's what is being enforced in the Halo is enforcing some kind of 2FA like that.
I'll tell you just a quick one as well. We're all in this, we're all in this space, so we're very attuned to this. But APIs, like we're messing about with APIs all day long, right? And a few years ago, someone was asking about a security audit, a financial company with my security hat on was asking about doing an audit. I ended up finding an API key in an email that was sent between two people. And so then I'm like using the API key. I'm going, oh, what is this API? Let me see what I can do with it. And I was able to pull, this was a finance company. I was able to pull all of their financial customers, their net worth, where their money was invested from a rogue API key that was just, that was sat in an email that they'd sent to a developer. Now, the one thing, obviously, when people are setting up Halo and they're connecting APIs, they want to do runbooks, all the time that you generate a secret. For me, just as a word of warning for people, I always say to people, don't put it anywhere, put it straight into the thing that you're doing. Don't keep it anywhere. If you need another one, get another one. Things like that, because there is a inherent risk with APIs because they go so undetected. Usernames and passwords and session cookies and all that sort of stuff is so obviously protected now, but there's this massive backdoor that if you can get yourself an API access to something and it's there for a while, then you've got backdoor access to systems that nobody will ever detect. Nobody will ever know that's going on.
And if you need some more nightmare fuel there. One of the other integrators, right, Quentin Comer from Comer Tech, one of his favorite things to do is go search GitHub for Halo PSA API keys, and he could at any given time show you 100 repositories that have their secrets published, in public repos. And yeah, you're absolutely right. Like with APIs that are meant to be machine to machine, there's no inherent red flag saying, hey, this thing is being used somewhere else. And it's the eternal struggle between backend developers and people that are trying to integrate. And it's like you've got usability here and you've got security here, and it's an inverse curve, right? Somewhere they have to meet in the middle, and that's usually not in the most secure point. So, I think that we're seeing a lot of transition to OAuth 2 with KCE and stuff. Like PaxSafe made that jump over already, and phasing out client ID and secrets. But yeah, it's absolutely the most important thing is don't write that stuff down. Don't email that stuff. Don't put it in your public GitHub repos. That's the number one most.
Don't put it in your private GitHub repo.
Yeah, don't
put API credentials in files, guys.
Anyway, yeah.
Don't do YouTube videos and show your API keys, right? Which I've seen, not with any of our Halo consultant community, but I've seen people kind of show stuff in general on APIs, and I've looked at the YouTube video and tested it, and it works with that API key. So, it's
The other thing that there is a bit of a problem I find in Halo is where they don't give you a good way to authenticate something. You have to kind of bolt something together, and then it puts it into the logs. It's like something needs to happen.
I would love to see, that's been one of my biggest requests for them for years, is I would love to see an API log. You create an API application in Halo. I would love to see the last time that key was authenticated and used, and I would love to see a log of the calls that it made. Because I think that that's probably one of the best missing features that they could put in, because right now there's a big blind spot in there. Right? You could probably go find any changes that are made to the system, if you go dig deep enough in the audit logs, but the audit logs also don't cover 100% of the platform. So there's a real inherent risk there where something could happen. Then you get something like the report endpoint, right, where you can basically dump anything from any of the tables from the report endpoint, and it would, that's not going to be a logged interaction. It's going to be somebody just read data, because it's not a writable endpoint. So it's not like they can post data and it's going to make an audit log, entry for it. It's like somebody gets your API keys, they can just extract all of that data from the report endpoint, and you would never even know. So I think that's probably from astoundingly quickly. Yeah, astoundingly quickly. And that's probably one of my biggest asks for them, and it has been for years, is like, let us see the last time that API key was authenticated. Let us see a log of the API calls that application was used for. Because A, it's a good troubleshooting tool when you're somebody like us who's trying to actually develop something against the API, but B, it's a really important blind spot that we have right now. So
Yeah, being able to feed that information into a CM, these days, like any CM system is going to be able to leverage AI to basically say, oh, so this application, this is the typical pattern of requests it makes. This one is abnormal. Like Sentinel can do that already from the data I can feed it from Ninja One's kind of activity logging. If Sentinel can do that from Ninja One, it could do it for Halo if I had the information. And Halo's API, like in terms of its permissions model, is probably second only to Microsoft Graph in terms of how granular you can be. Especially like you look at other MSP tools, Ninja's the other API I'm super familiar with. They have like 3 scopes. You've got like read some stuff, write some stuff, and control everything. That like there's no granularity within that. I can't make an API key for Ninja that can just read devices but can't read anything else in the system. Like you're so limited in terms of flexibility. Whereas with Halo, you can make an API key that can just read one entity type.
Right.
Which is kind of cool. And have that flexibility. And if you are using the API, use those permission scopes. It's what they're there for.
Yeah, don't check the admin in all boxes for everything. Just don't do it. And they're, they show you the warning now. They do have a read. Yeah. And, it was such on that Ninja thing, right? Like the Ninja API is ridiculous to work with in a lot of contexts because of that, right? The authentication method. They rely on, an obscure, annoying authentication method to kind of protect the API side of things. And it's not the best approach. I think there's a lot of room for improvements there. But I think the best thing you can do is lock things like your RMM and Halo, not only behind an IP restriction, but if you're a Microsoft shop, conditional access can go really far in this regard. And this is what we do at TechPulse is we lock Halo and Ninja and IT Glue, all that stuff behind a compliant company-owned device. So you can't, even if you get a hold of credentials, you can't use them unless you have a TechPulse laptop you can also log into, right? So,
like I do have an issue with that from a Halo perspective, though, because we've been testing that out, and it doesn't work the way it does for other things. We've tested where you take something out of compliance and your session stay working.
Yeah, so
in progress,
continuous access evaluation, which is disappointing. But it does kind of surface a little bit of a compliance bugbear I have with Halo, which is they get a bit one and done with certain feature areas. So like they've done SSO, so getting them to go back and actually now enhance it to account for changes in like SSO specs where we can now do continuous access evaluation. And like I don't know how many years it will take before we get them to go back and kind of be able to support that thing that's been out for 2 years now. So it's a bit frustrating, but you're right. Yeah, Halo does not. It doesn't matter. You can adjust your compliance policies, but Halo's session lifetimes are pretty long.
Yeah, and they also use a non-standard mechanism, which is not right for an MSP for, access tokens, refresh tokens. The fact that you just pull an access token and it's good for 60 minutes, or if you make a call, it automatically refreshes. That is a completely non-standard OAuth implementation. No one else in the world does it that way. Big changes need to happen in that regard. But I think they can't. I think their hands are tied because it's going to break basically everything that's designed to integrate with the platform that uses that non-standard authentication method. But yeah, I agree. Continuous access evaluation needs to be like top of their list, compliance and security wise, because it's leaving a big blind spot. You have to go in there and like manually revoke tokens and all that stuff. That shouldn't be the case. So I agree.
Yeah. Again, when we're talking as MSPs about making sure you're as compliant as possible for your data and your customers and stuff like that, especially also we talked about RMM earlier. Now, this is where all these pieces like fit together and they expand the threat. So we're talking about RMM and the potential threat hands, talking about PSA. Now, when you start to trigger PSA, RMM, SIP, things like that. So now you've got automations that are triggered from within Halo. Now, if you do compromise the PSA, you're actually not just compromising the PSA and the data within it. You're also impacting everything to do with 365, everything to do with the RMM, every piece that's connected to that MSP is now
exactly. And that is a massive, massive risk that most MSPs don't appreciate. And probably one of the best arguments in favor of self-hosting your Halo instance, which is in my experience becoming more popular nowadays. You need to be able to control the ingress and egress of data from the PSA, which you can't do in the hosted model yet. So yeah, that's absolutely spot on. Joe is like, if you breach the PSA, guess what? You now have access to everything because it touches every other system. This is why I discourage people: don't keep secrets in the PSA, don't keep passwords in the PSA, don't do any of that stuff. Keep it in. It supports Azure Key Vault. It supports the AWS equivalent of that. There's ways to do it at runtime to retrieve those secrets that you need and stuff like that. Try to compartmentalize. Even though a PSA is about centralizing all of the management and everything in your business, compartmentalization from a security and compliance standpoint is super important and should be stressed, right?
And I mean, I actually asked a question on our consultants forum the other day. Us as consultants have access to all of our clients' Halos as well, right? And where do we keep all of that data? And it was good to see, obviously all of us being the good consultants we are, said we keep it in our password manager. But God forbid you keep it in like Notepad or something, and you've just got a long list of them. So there's that to think about as well, as everybody is just trusting us and relying on us to keep their data safe. And if somebody hacks us for whatever reason, hacks into our password vault, then they have access to all those other customers' Halos as well. Especially, in my case, I have the 2FA key just automatically filling in from my password manager as well. So you're straight in once you get your get into your password manager.
Yeah,
and I don't think that's uncommon either. Like, the number of even security minded consultants and MSPs that I talk to and interact with, who you kind of watch them log in on a screen share and their password manager autofills their 2FA key. And I am something of a contrary personality type. When it at the best of times. So pre kind of everyone jumping on Halo, I was kind of out there selling Halo to MSP communities, like, as go this direction. But I've been doing the same thing for the same number of years about, please don't ever put MFA keys in a password manager. It defeats the entire purpose, of having these things in the same tool.
A YubiKey is only $5, right? Like
anything.
A physical token, even if the physical token just enables you to access an MFA key, is a far superior option. It should be something you have, something right? After the old adage of the base of this entire thing, right? So,
well, that's where passkey. For me, I've been a big advocate of pushing passkeys, because that does actually get to the point where we've got a proper secure method of authentication. So we're, as with the MSP hat on, we're trying to go through all clients, we're locking down IP addresses for Microsoft 365, which is the biggest target for hackers. We're locking everything down so that it has to be a trusted IP or a trusted device. And if it's neither of those, then it's passkey only. So to completely mitigate risks of, session hijacking has been rampant through many businesses, and MSPs have seen the bulk of it. I remember about 3 or 4 years ago when I started talking about, you need to act now to defend against session hijacking and start limiting things down. And, I still see MSPs today that are going, oh, we've had a client hacked. What happened? Oh, it's a session hack. It ends up being a session hijacking attack. And you're just like, okay, this has been known for years, right? Get it done. Start actually mitigating against these risks. But I do think passkeys has now given us that position where we can do something genuine to add the layer of defense in that's required.
They have the one thing I will I was talking to another MSP about passkeys, and they were very excited to show off their adoption of passkeys, and watching them then kind of on a screen share go straight into their Keeper account with no MFA on the Keeper, to then have Keeper provide the passkey. And you're like, no, that you've really misunderstanding the point.
Yeah. No, but Microsoft don't support that though, do they? Because I don't think Microsoft support, the only ones they support is the authenticator one.
Yeah.
Unless they have changed.
No, you're right there. But the number of places I've seen who were like, we're really secure now because we've got passkeys, and you're like,
we're keeping them in our password manager, missing the point entirely.
Yeah.
Okay, so regarding this, how you address risk when onboarding high security clients. This is our.
So for us,
Sorry.
oh no, go ahead. Robbie's.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. So we get started with you. That's fine.
We don't actually break kind of clients apart into risk categories anymore. We kind of stopped doing that probably about 5 years ago. I know it still happens, and you still get clients that have their own unique compliance challenges. Our position currently is to hold all clients to the most stringent security standard that we need in our client group. So we have many clients who don't need anything close to Cyber Essentials Plus, but their policies and the way we build their systems are still enforced at that level, because that's where everybody gets pitched. It eases our compliance journey as an MSP because our configuration can be the same across the board. We don't need to start poking holes because this client doesn't have a compliance requirement. But also it gives us the comfort to know that, among our client group, Touchwood, having just had a bit of a remodel, there's not as much wood around here as there usually is. So I panic now and go Touchwood. But Touchwood, we haven't had even a session hijack succeed among our client group in 10 years. Not a single security incident among our entire client group in 10 years, despite significant periods of attempts. So it is possible. Like the adage, still our mindset is when, not if, but it is possible to harmonize an MSP client group to the point where you can give everyone the same level of protection without overly bloating your costs, if you're willing to be a bastard about it. And that's the key thing. Yeah. Our clients don't get a choice when it comes to security. You cannot come and pick your antivirus with us. You cannot pick which Microsoft 365 security settings we turn on or off. I don't care that you don't like the external sender spoof warning. It's on for everyone. Deal with it. And we do get clients who are like, but I want it turned off. It's clutter. And the answer is always no. So you can't be happy to be a bastard.
I would echo that, because we did exactly so. When we started Reformed back in 2019, we did exactly the same model. There was a package that we provide. There is no ifs, no buts, no pick and mix, no disabling things. It is literally this, or you go with somebody else, because the company you go with, inevitably, you're going to moan at them when you get breached, and you're going to ask them to bail you out of the situation. So if there's one message to MSPs that both of us would strongly signal is no compromised security, no tiered system, no good, better, best, like only have best, better than best, and stick with it and tell everybody they have to do it. And they pay the price. If they don't want to do that, go to someone else that does do it, because you'll see them one day when they've had an issue, they'll come back to you, realizing they should have listened to you.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter how strong your contract language is about how much you indemnify yourself, because ultimately you cannot indemnify yourself against the only risk that tanks your business, which is reputational damage. And nobody reads past the headline where it says that, Joe's golf shop suffered a massive cyber attack that cost them millions, and their MSP was TechPulse. Sorry, guys.
I think about this because we do it the exact same way. We don't a la carte anything, right? Like you can't come in here and pick and choose, which things you're going to get. If you don't want them, sorry, somebody else will take care of you. And I try to preach that to people when I'm doing consulting too, is that there's no compromise here. And I'm not familiar with how it works on that side of the pond, but in the United States, we can't contractually release ourselves from negligence claims, right? And even if you could, that's at the end of the day not the biggest problem you're going to face. Yeah, you're going to have reputational damage, but your errors in emissions insurance is going to pay out. Like if you're like, oh yeah, you don't have to buy MDR if you don't want. You don't have to, do these security, procedures that we require. But at the end of the day, when they get breached eventually, their insurance policy is going to turn around and sue your E&O because you didn't enforce them or tell them to take a hike, right? And I have actually a real world example of this where we quoted a client and they're like, no, you guys are too expensive. We don't want all that security, garbage or whatever. Not even 60 days later, full ransomware attack, everything's done, right? They couldn't afford the ransom. They lost all of their data. This is, organization has been around 30, 40 years. Everything was gone. Not recoverable. FBI wasn't able to get the keys or anything, and guess who came crawling back, and then was all of a sudden willing to follow all the rules. That's how it happens. How it plays out every time. Is you don't want those clients. Bad clients are not worth the money that they give you.
And that's the great thing about doing it that way, is it actually disqualifies the ones you absolutely don't want to work with. If you're saying, as part of our policy, we do this, we make sure you got MFA, we do this, we conditional access things. If they're then going, no, that's we don't want to do that, like that sounds like a lot of hassle, then you just absolutely know that's a red flag. Like they don't care enough about their own business. Like if they don't care about their business, then how am I supposed to care about it?
It so means, and I don't know if you found the same, we don't have to resort to the all too common MSP selling tactic of FUD. We don't have to sow the fear, the uncertainty in order to get them to buy into security solutions, because we don't need them to buy into the security solution. That's just the baseline. Actually, what
I've found
is, our automation and our understanding of your sector and your industry and our relationship to you as an expert. We're not selling you on what brand name security products we happen to use this month. When actually we're just going to put WebRoot on there and hope you don't notice the icon.
It's funny how, like we're talking about this in 2025. I mean, I was doing this exact thing in the mid 2000s when I had my MSP business. We had one package. We didn't follow everyone else of the good, better, best. It was like you have one, same thing. You have this. I mean, there's mainly only antivirus products in those days, but you have this antivirus product, take it or leave it. Right. And I find it quite interesting that we're still talking about this now of, how we were doing some of that. Well, I was doing some of that stuff way back when in the early 2000s of,
have we really made progress, or do we just really hope we
Exactly. I think the biggest challenge for MSPs, though, in doing this is we started in 2019. It was our policy from day one, right? It was no exceptions. This is what we did. And we also made the decision when we did that we were going to say, the problem is when you've got a legacy MSP, right? It's been around for a while. They've got a standard offering that they do. And then they go, these new products enter the market, and they feel like they're compelled to have to sell them as add-ons or bolt-ons. And so they get caught in this trap of constantly trying to sell add-ons and bolt-ons to their clients. Whereas the model that we did was, that's how we're going to do it, and we're going to keep it. In order to keep it, what you've got to do is you've got to realize that if something needs to change, you have to go and add that change into your business, and you have to swallow it. You have to just do it and then deal with it at renewal. That's how we do it. We just deal with it at renewal, right? Price goes up at renewal. And so you're taking that, go back and ask for more money for another product completely off the table. It's like, we'll do it. We'll think about your security first. Anything commercially comes later, right? That's the policy. So I think that's where a lot of MSPs have got into that trap. They're already in that trap of, they've sold something. They now need to get all their clients up to a standard. So what they do is try and sell it as bolt-ons, add-ons until they get to a point where they've got enough people doing it. And the other thing I don't think a lot of MSPs realize from a commercial perspective is that actually doing this way, we know that a lot of our competitors at similar sites have a lot more salespeople. They have to have a lot more salespeople because your account managers are full-time going around trying to sell add-ons and bolt-ons. Yeah. If you take that off the table, that you haven't got to completely go and sell add-ons and bolt-ons full-time jobs because it's all just baked into the package, you reduce the amount of wasted sales admin that people have got to do because it's just built in.
As I like to call it, admin, it makes me
all these tools that talk about white space with your customers. I'm like, if you're just selling that stuff in the first place to them, then there's no white space, or anything else for you to be selling. Just put it all into your package and sell that all to your customers in the first place.
But a lot of MSPs hear this as like, never have optional services, which it's not. It doesn't mean that. Like we have one core offering, but you can still choose to get Teams phone through us, or you can choose to get your own phone system. I don't really care. But our bolt-ons, our kind of add-ons, are never in our core offering, and that's where you need to ring fence. Is what's the core of what you do? No bolt-ons within your core.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So we will sell other services to people. That's fine. But ultimately, the same package applies unilaterally to every single client where every client benefits. There are some things, even from a security perspective, that are a little bit more bespoke. They don't apply to every single organization in the same vein. So there are the odd thing where that this is above and beyond, but you need this because you've got a certain situation.
Yeah, we have those. We have a maybe 10% of our customers are stepped up to like full Defender EDR plan 2, Entra plan 2 stuff. Most of our clients, that's not where our baseline is. So we can go above the baseline, but nobody gets to go below it.
Bingo.
Yeah.
And the baseline constantly rises. That's the thing as well. We keep pulling it up. So like end of last year in September, we disabled voice call, SMS, MFA, and software OAuth across the entire client group. It just got turned off. So yeah, we continually evaluate and raise that baseline.
Yeah, and the other thing to be mindful of with MSPs doing this, if you are going to do this, is that don't let the boss, the MD, the CEO turn around and say, I want my cyber awareness training switched off. You go, no, if I don't have your support, if I don't have your support to do it, then the main example or be fired. Exactly. I can't tell you how many times we've covered it, right? Like, oh, well, the CEO, he's not going to do it. Just stop sending notifications. Well, here's the thing. But that,
And that cascades out client relationships as well. Like you can't let a client CEO opt out of security because they're the CEO. Because again, that shit runs downhill.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And they're the worst person. They're the ones yelling at targeted the most, and the ones that are going to click 100% of the time. It's always going to be
that book yesterday. I had one client, their MD said, he was very expressing how much he hated MFA. And it's like, well, it's not going off. Like, I don't care that you're calling the shot. It's not coming off. Like,
you want to get rid of MFA for a bit because
you get into that quicker. Yeah.
Okay, so in the interest of time, let's move past compliance, move into the actual probably what everybody's going to jump to in the video, which is going to be the role of AI. And maybe this plays into this compliance and security conversation a little bit too, right? We've seen massive gains.
Wait, AI is a thing since when?
I was under the impression
different AI
or a generative model, actually. This is all big crazy. Yeah. So, we've seen obviously in the industry as a whole, it just everywhere in technology, everything's getting AI injected AI, right? My AI coffee maker that determines how long it needs to roast my, the beans or whatever. But Halo is obviously adopting a lot of that stuff. We've seen some integration of a lot of AI features.
Halo has AI coffee maker. We need to find that.
It does. Actually, his name is Timm Bowers, I think. But no. So, we've seen Halo adopt a lot of that stuff. It's becoming a bigger deal every big release, right? We see, AI categorizations coming in, embedding, matching, and search and all that stuff. So what advancements in AI are you integrating when you're doing Halo PSA implementations, or what are you integrating into your own MSP to improve service delivery, operational stuff, and all of that kind of good stuff? Alex, I'll start with you.
Right. So obviously you got your AI suggestions, which has been there for a little bit now. So categorization, summary, routing to the right teams and things like that. So, what I've been doing is like redoing summaries, voice transcription from 3CX coming in. So if people, let's say we can't answer the phone, that stuff coming in and then being categorized. You can also probably even, do the call recordings you've had with someone to then kind of condense, transcribe that, and then, create tickets based off that. So yeah, I think, AI is great for cutting time and then increasing efficiency. I think some big, really big MSPs usually have like, I don't want to say dispatchers because, I don't want to call them out, but there's someone normally triaging and stuff. But, for the smaller guys out there, the AI can really help. I don't need someone to sit and triage all day. I can have AI empower that and do that for me. So then my costs of running an MSP are a lot less because I don't have someone sitting there charging. I know obviously, some big MSPs do that, but the smaller ones don't. But, that helps.
In all honesty, the bigger ones are only doing it because they're using ConnectOnes. And they just don't know how to do it better.
Or
They don't quite 10 years away from AI in a product.
It'll never happen. But
They've got to finish the product.
Yeah, they haven't finished the product first. So they've been working on it since the 90s. Autotask, you'll never see a development in that regard either. And I don't know.
Well, actually, Autotask get this.
You tricked it.
about what's task.
They have the Autotask now. This, I think it's called Cooper bots or something. They're like ridiculous dog thing that they use for is they all
Wait, you can train our development to do ticket triage?
yeah, but they literally have this thing called Cooper
One
bot
more free side, guys.
is using their own AI stuff.
Oh, wow.
Autotask, yeah, it's
It's
not-
interestingly, Alex, you talked about like profitability with AI. I think one of the things that goes a bit underappreciated is also consistency of service standards. As an AI kind of backed triage process is going to come to the same set of conclusions and determinations consistently each time you ask it to triage.
compared to being a tech. Yeah.
Doing a reception desk on the phone is going to come to a different triage conclusion and assign to a different tech, depending on whether you've given her the good coffee or the bad coffee, whether she's got enough chocolates on her desk,
How long the beans have been roasted for. Yeah, it really.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's
Again, not
quite
interesting.
interesting.
Like ticket.
Consistency is the biggest win for AI, for us at least.
I was going through this with another client recently that I think, Joe, we spoke about this as well. A ticket can constantly evolve into something else than it originally started. I know obviously everything should be one ticket. So, if there's two issues in one, that shouldn't happen. It should be split. But you could evaluate a ticket from the start to go, oh, we would like a new account. And then it turns out to be something completely different. And then that categorization or, if you bill for that work, that might not be done at the end. So, I'm obviously, on the side where we include a lot of things. So we wouldn't really bill for that. But a lot of MSPs out there that do that different model would then need to recategorize it and bill it properly. So yeah, having AI recategorize things as it goes along, really helps. And that consistency, like, one day I might not be feeling it for, oh, that's a change other because I can't be bothered to categorize it. Whereas AI will just do it consistently, as you mentioned.
And we've all been there. So we ran our own AI ticket categorization using Azure machine learning before it was AI backed. So we've been playing this game for a while. Not without its funny bugs, to be fair. We have switched to Halo's built-in recently, which has been an interesting comparison journey. And we're still running some of our own AI tech, like ticket splitting. You will take my ticket splitting bot out of my cold dead hands because it avoids that like two issues in one ticket. So it will intelligently split it into two tickets with a slightly passive aggressive note back to the original submitter, telling them why it's
always got to be the way.
But I managing to introduce some funny bugs. So I did introduce a bug where it did behave like a lazy tech for about a day. Everything got categorized as other. That was a fun day. Literally every ticket, it was just like, oh, I don't know, other. And then because we can watch its thought process did literally boil down to, I don't know, other. That was a fun bug. I quite enjoyed that. I've got to be honest.
But AI is coming for your jobs, guys.
Yeah.
My implementation of AI has been extreme. It's been from one side, it's been very, very functional and solved a very severe problem. The other side, it's just Halo didn't do something for me, and I'm like, how can I fix this with AI? Right? Even how stupid it is, and it should already work. How can I fix this situation with AI? So I'll give you the functional one first. Right? We use Augment in our MSP, and that does alerts. But their alerts they send into Halo, even though there's an integration, is just awful. It's just a block of random text. It's like an alert with an IP address, what happened, user affected. But it's a block of horrendous text that's really, really quite difficult to review from a technician point of view. You've got to kind of trawl through it. So again, that simple use case. Again, one of the things I think for people who want to do this, put it into your own instance first, chuck it into your own OpenAI instance or would be nice. Put it in your own. And then generally what we did is we had it so that it looks at the content of the alert that came through and quite simply just rewrote it with headers and information to make it structurally so it's really easy for a technician to review. So that was quite a functional piece that we couldn't do with any other automation because every alert was completely different. The way that was structured was completely different. And then on the wild side is that I got really fed. I can't believe this doesn't exist in Halo already. But if you get an opportunity, an email opportunity, I think it is, or we got something from the website. And if you get an email opportunity, there's an email address in when they send the opportunity in, right? But because it's not a contact inside of Halo at that point, it's a new inquiry. There is no function to take the email address and for it to automatically sit in the email address field in the opportunity. I'm like, what on earth? Why does that not exist, right? Why has nobody in the CRM team thought, do you know what we need is we'll put the email address in the contact when the opportunity gets created. Anyway, it doesn't exist. So I got really annoyed with that. And then I thought, I also want to know the company name. So if somebody emails in, I am a bit like Alex, completely lazy. And I don't want to have to look who this company is. I want it to know the company straight away. So I thought, how creative can I get with AI? So I started to take the input of the information from the ticket. And then I was like, right, can I use AI to go and look up this email address to work out which company this person works for and then bring it back? But because the AI doesn't have access to the internet, I had to pair up Bing. So I used Bing search to go and do a search on that email address and the name, and bring back 3 or 4 results. And from the 3 or 4 results, I wanted to make a guess as to what the company name would be and the email address of this person, and then bring it back into a field so that I've got the company name, the email address, contact name. That was the bit. And I wanted the contact name. So did this stupid run book just purely to save me the odd few seconds in researching who the company was.
And just replacing, you don't have, anyone with like a Penn Island style domain submit your form to the wrong company.
So when you start putting images in custom fields, that's when we're having problems.
And you're writing your
interesting. Interestingly, it worked fairly well. It made the odd mistake, but it worked fairly well. It was bringing the right information through. The only other one I did was just the AI improved note stuff. So I've done some different things on the AI improved note function to do specific things that I want to do. Like an example is I use Fireflies for recording my consultancy meetings, and I, again, lazy. So when I copy and paste the text from Fireflies, I am working on the API to pull it in, but that's another story. But if I copy and paste the text in from Fireflies, it doesn't format it nice like it is when I paste it in. So I just, again, did the improved note button to basically explain what I've copied and pasted in and to reformat it with bullet point emojis, like style it out nicely. Little things like that.
One of the things I see a lot on the AI side is, I mean, it's a simple one, but it's quite effective for some customers. Is the AI reports writing functionality, where you can literally use AI to generate the report? Because I have a lot of customers that aren't au fait with SQL and don't understand how SQL reports work, and I think it's really good to just be able to go into the report writer and say, to type in something, write me a profitability report that gives me who my top 10 customers are, blah, blah, blah. And it just spews. Well, it doesn't work all the time, as we know.
Go on then, Chris, write that into the AI until it comes back.
I was going to say, it doesn't work all the time, but it does work for the most part, for basic stuff, it works pretty well. But I'd like to see, they do kind of thing.
AI is apparently the same as any of us, which is when confronted with a simple report, it's like, yeah, I can manage that. And when confronted with a kind of moderate to complex report, it's like, no, I can't even with this shit. What is this database structure? Yeah.
Error. Well, I think that's what it does. It's just like, yeah, no, I'm not doing that for you. It just comes back, no results found.
It's because there's no...
I'm waiting for you to just generate a report of that thing. Please take database structure.
Yeah. So the Ronaldo guys didn't make it here, unfortunately. It's been going on, but Connor has been working on his, AI report generation tool. And I was lucky enough to kind of watch that development go on behind the scenes. And, collaborated a little bit to figure out some of the joins and stuff. And I'm super excited to see him, make that offer in public, which I think it's pretty imminent because his actually works. I've never really seen the one in Halo work. Unfortunately, maybe for very, very simple things, but the fact that there's no foreign keys and primary keys and there's no join data between any of the tables, to get charge rate, it's f.lookup where ID equals 17. Like, really? You couldn't just be a table called charge rates and I don't know. But I've been excited to see some of that happen. And that, kind of takes me to the next question, which is like, okay, we talked about, eating our own dog food. This is what we're doing in our MSPs with AI. And, a lot of what we're doing is AI categorization. I guess we're deviating from norm where we are a larger MSP, but we have a pretty large dispatch team as well. I was answering phones and triaging and doing stuff like that. But we're doing a lot of decision support with AI where we're like embedding a ticket dashboard that's got tons of information. We're doing very similar things what Joe is doing, where we're going out and, we're taking the context and the semantic memories from these tickets. And we're saying, going to look at Bing and say, okay, do we have a solution from, semantically matched tickets that might be relevant to this, but also is there anything on the web that we can give the agent? Because what we're trying to do is reduce that forward time of, I got this ticket, let me go research the ticket. Let's try to give all of the resource that we can right up front and, maybe multiple trajectories that they can take to solve that ticket, right? And this is kind of what we're going to be announcing on our Quantum Ops product here soon. But the support trajectories are kind of like a talent tree in the O, right? So they get 4 or 5 support trajectories, and they can draw.
No, he's gone again.
Insightful stuff. So insightful, you can't see.
He goes, it can drop, and boom, he goes like, here, drops the mic.
And the funny thing is, he can hear us when he drops off, but we can't hear him.
And you know what? I feel like we need to get the brand of this camera just so that you, the good viewer, can avoid it like the fucking plague.
Get my camera instead. Like, I have a very good camera set.
Well, I mean, most of the time, not the next AI camera.
It's
Oh, look, that's not the real Christopher come back. There's an AI version of it. He's back now.
Yeah, it's garbage. I hate it. So like you can draw thoughts for trajectories, right? Like a talent tree in MMO, and the goal then is to have the AI kind of follow that trajectory as much as it can. Whether that's we know we need to go reach out to Ninja and run a script on that endpoint, or we need to go retrieve data from our external systems and bring that in for decision support. And the goal is to not take the agency away from the text, right? We don't want to take people out of the situation, A, because that's an ethical problem, but B, it's a quality problem, quality control problem. But we want them to have the tools to make their job more accurate and faster without taking agency away, right? There's a lot going on there, but I guess that takes us into the next question is like, okay, we talked about what we're doing in our MSPs. What are you guys doing when you're building Halo? And what do you think might be useful for community members to know as far as AI implementation in Halo? What are the biggest, gains they can make with the least amount of effort? What's the lowest hanging fruit? What are you implementing time and time again, right? I guess we could start with Alex.
Well, Joe's paying us.
Okay.
Sons.
All right, go ahead, Joe.
That's him.
Yeah. And I was going to say it was the one that I mentioned earlier, the AI. So the first thing I would do if you're starting to like use Halo for the first time and administer Halo and set it up is I would 100% put on the AI agent bot so that you can ask it questions about configuration. How do I do this? Where do I go for that? It's not perfect. It does sometimes do what AI does and just gives you a complete fabricated answer. But a lot of times the answer is, oh, okay, cool. I didn't know it was in that particular place, or I didn't know that feature even existed. So I can go and find that. So what I'm doing with implementations, I generally switch that on fairly early on, because I'm like, if you don't want to ask me the question, go and ask the AI, or at least go and ask the AI first, like where the setting is, how it might work, because it scans it's got the whole documentation library. I think that's part of its problem with fabricating stories is that obviously the documentation is still fairly, it's not comprehensive, but if it's in the documentation, you ask it a question, it will find the answer. And the good thing about it is it's a 1 minute turn on. the setting's already there. You don't have to do anything complicated. Go and turn on the agent bot, and it'll just work. It's great.
Where is that, Joe?
So you go into configuration, AI. If you scroll down to the chatbot pieces, you can go to chat profiles, create a...
Oh, it's in a chat profile. Okay.
Yeah. Create a new profile. And then within there, you've got access agent app. And then you choose... it's at the next stage. Choose the agent app, and then in the you show it for administrators, obviously, because if it's the admin thing, you show it to the administrators role, and then you go to the bot flow and put action, and then you basically create the action to be virtual agent conversation, and then in virtual agent conversation, you just put the documentation virtual agent.
Okay.
And then turn it on.
Oh, so, okay, I've got it. Yeah. So access is agent app.
Literally doing this live in two production instances as you're talking through it.
Sorry, Joe's schooling the consultants as well, telling them how we do it.
With their Hunter's Roadshow, like they had the team at Halo were doing some demo stuff, and they said, "Oh, we're going to talk about AI," but then they got me up to talk about AI and say which bits, and I was like, go and do this. This is the one thing that I quite like, and if anyone's getting started with Halo, it will help them.
So you just show for administrator agents, did you say?
I do, yeah. For that one, there's obviously there's the user agent that you can use as well for the purpose of asking about about tickets and things, but this is the first one I switch on because it helps people to understand the configuration of Halo.
No, I'm going to play with this and see if it's any good.
Yeah, I'm going to play with it.
Yeah, as I say, when I first started using it, I was like, it's really quite good. And then it almost like got dull over time. And I have to kind of argue with it a little bit and go, you do know that setting doesn't exist. And it goes, my apologies. What I meant was this, and gives me another random answer.
Don't you love it when AI does that? My apologies. I didn't mean to do like, you're supposed to know the answers to all these things.
But does anyone else?
The other thing
AI is like sometimes passive aggressive or very blunt and direct.
Yes. Not just passive aggressive. When you try to get AI to help you build a report and it's just giving you blatant like lies and misrepresentations, then I turn around and go, "What are you doing? I've told you about this before."
Yeah, that's still like semicolon at the S. Why are you doing?
I literally put that in my chat. I'm like, I've told you about this plenty of times. Do not put a semicolon at the end of the bloody SQL script, or do not put code like comments into my SQL script. You're just wasting my time.
Yeah, I mean, I do that with ChatGPT in general. Yeah, if you write something, it always gives you like, you tell it to correct a piece of code and it just gives you the snippet of the code. I'm like, well, just show me where it goes. Don't, every time you update a section of the code, just give me the full listing of the code so I don't have to figure out where it goes. But man, it doesn't do that. And I yelled at it the other day. I'm like, in big, bold capital letters, like I said, please put the code in every single time you give it to me. And yeah, it's...
And he wonders why it sounds like drones are trying to crash into his house.
Exactly.
That's the other thing about AI is how it's got a massive bias. You know how Google's using AI for like search results and stuff? It agrees with whatever you say. So my wife's tried to prove a point in an argument by asking Google a question. AI comes back and agrees with it. And I'm like, that's not factually correct. Yeah. Google just told you it is because you said so.
It's actually something kind of stepping back to that compliance piece. It's a series of training that we devised and have started rolling out last year for decision makers in our customers about like, so we actually take them through and show them like obvious bias in common AI models that their staff might be using and how you can get an AI with very little effort to basically say exactly what you want to hear back and like helping to try to prime them like how dangerous this stuff is if your response to AI is well, staff will just do what they want to do with it. That's fine.
Have you guys seen a tool called Notebook LM, which is basically a Google tool that I've been playing with that for a little bit, and it's actually freaking awesome. You can put like a lot of if you wanted to, I don't know, like research buying a new house in a particular area, for example. So you could just give it as many sources as you want. It could be YouTube, it can be, blog posts, it can be whatever. So you build up all the sources, and then you say to it, right, what I want you to do is I want you to find me a house with this many bedrooms in this kind of area. I want you to tell me how good the schools are, what the best school is. And it literally comes back and it gives you all of this information and then summarizes it all and says, my recommendation is this. And it's sort of, it literally breaks it down from all the sources that you give it.
Trying to move because of all those drones. Is that one?
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a few community questions that folks had posted in the Halo PSA Discord that they wanted to hear our opinions on. I think we'll do this kind of like a rapid fire, just because in the interest of time to get through it. So I'll just go around in a circle. Let's try to keep our answers 1 minute, 30 seconds or less. So the first one was auto approval for holidays. It's currently not an option because when you do holidays with approval, they have to put the holiday on the calendar and then they have to request the approval in a second step. The question is, what's up with that? And apparently there was some kind of large technical challenge for Halo to make an alteration here. Do you think that that's a huge deal or a quality of life thing, or is this, just folks nitpicking? We'll start with Mikey.
I cannot see how automatic approval for holidays within a set of rules is challenging enough that there's any technical blocker to it. Given that, Microsoft figured out how to add it within the Teams Shifts app in the space of about a month. And generally, if Microsoft can figure out how to add something quickly and it hasn't completely broken and been removed 6 months later, it's actually not that complex a problem to solve. So yeah, not sure what's up with that, but also it's nowhere near as complex a meal as Halo seems to be making it.
I think even if it just made their request for approval automatically, that would but I personally think there's no technical barrier to that at all. But apparently it's some kind of big thing.
No, you've got a flexible approvals engine built into the damn software. It's bad enough that we can't use it across all entities like invoices and stuff, but holidays, surely it makes sense there. Surely that's a thing where two people met in a corridor at Halo and their eyes met and they're like, we're both working on tech that could interface. And I don't know, maybe Timm walked in between them and that connection never happened. But someone linked those two guys up, the approvals guy and the holidays guy, because they need to meet.
Yeah. But, okay, Kristen, probably sit next to each other as well, right? Sit. Yeah.
You're up, Chris.
Yeah, you're up, Chris.
What about the holidays thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think it can't be that hard to put into the product. I mean, it's something I think is fairly straightforward and should be there. So yeah.
Chris is of the opinion. What's up with that?
Chris.
All right, Jimmy.
Yeah, what's up with that, Rob?
I do find, with consultancy clients, it comes up a lot about people say about paid time off and holiday booking and all this. And they go, oh, I want to get this set up. And I kind of just go, have you not got another system? Where are they? So we just use a different system for holidays and things like that. And
The appearance of those.
it's one of those things.
Just a mirage. So imagine it.
Yeah, it's not in here. We're going to turn off 15 settings and it'll disappear. You won't see it anymore. But I'm not. I'm not exactly. I think the thing with Halo, obviously, everything's developing at such a rapid pace, and some things are going to be priority, some things aren't. I don't see that being the biggest priority for them when there's so many other things going on. So at the same time, I'm just yeah, I mean, you can try and make it work if you want for you, but equally, if you've got another system that does all of that, then
Yeah, I agree.
I do wish Halo would give us a few consolidation releases where we get no new features and we consolidate some of the existing features. I wish they'd embrace a little bit of that because just railroading new features without ever going back and fixing the ones you've just done is becoming problematic.
It is.
That only grows.
Well, not for the entire big cycle of the product, right? Where we're getting 64 new features in 2.174, but those 300 features we implemented over the last 3 years, most of those still don't work. But look, AI, shush. Yeah. Okay, Alex, same question.
Just use a HR system which does it.
Yeah, exactly. Let's use Gusto for it. We're like, don't screw around with Halo for this particular thing.
I think the problem is as you said, Halo is obviously developed so quickly. I remember when I first used it, the integrations. I know the integration screens you couldn't scroll, so now you can scroll. That there's obviously so much momentum in that Halo's built to be a PSA. It's meant to do ticketing really well and everything else, but there's some things in it that's just bolted on that they've obviously taken like their attention elsewhere. Which, bearing in mind, it's like 365. There's features in 365 which are stupid, and why is it there? You know what I mean? Like you should be focusing on your core.
But then, is it resource management a core part of a PSA?
Like a core, yeah. But then you use calendar things to bring out like if they're not in or in.
Yeah.
But then again, HR stuff, they're entitled to so many days leave by regulations. They need to be taking it. So then why not have a talk? Like if Halo starts to build that in, then they've obviously got to go through the nuances of regulation in the UK, US, everywhere for time off and make sure people are giving their techs the right time off.
Yeah, but they don't have to handle that so much as they have to give me a box that where I tell them like how to calculate that, right? They don't have to take on the regulatory burden. You'd hope not. You'd hope they really don't, because that then gets into like the opposite. That gets into the ninja problem of like, rather than trusting you to be an adult and figure out how to run your business and how to set things, we're just going to assume that every MSP is the same and railroad you down such a narrow path. It's really going to grate on you.
Right.
But, sorry, can I just say something on this? I mean, we're all talking about how people are asking for this kind of stuff in Halo, and all the tasks has a pretty good PTO thing built in.
Just to auto.
You were talking about
Just because they're saying,
yeah. Well, but the point is, it's in there, and no one ever uses it, right? So, and so they're all using the vertical tools already, and they've all got HR tools that they're managing PTO and stuff in anyway. So,
Wait, we have to actually use the things we want Halo to implement. We can't just keep asking them for stuff.
Yeah, I was gonna say the easiest way to get it in is just find a big company, make it a condition purchase. That's how you do it.
I have, I think my last 300 plus seat implementations had conditions of purchase that never materialized. Like even after go live, after a year, like the conditions of purchase thing. For people watching that don't know, a lot of the reason things are the way they are in Halo are because of conditions of purchase. That this very specific thing was designed to work a very specific way for a very specific person that requested it as a condition of purchase. Halo built it that way. So a lot of these complaints, so like a lot of these things that we get these questions about all the time in the Discord is like, well, it's actually, yes, did they not have the foresight to like maybe make this more flexible so that other people could use it too? No, they're trying to just get across the finish line because it's a condition of purchase for somebody to go. Right? You can't start billing them until that thing is there. So, okay. So the next one, again, let's try to get quick, is it's in the same vein, right? Currently, techs must add PTO entries to calendars outside of Halo and inside of Halo, right? Like they got to put their PTO in, and then if you have a shared calendar or something, you got to go do that in an external system as well. Do you think that this is something that needs to be gap bridged? I would say personally, I think shared calendars from 365 and the ability to sync all, define a whole bunch of parameters to sync things to and from a shared calendar would be probably one of my top 3 things that I would ask for. If, it was Timm Bauer's Christmas special, but, interested to hear what you guys think there too. We'll start with Joe.
Well, I'm already against it because I don't care. I use a different system. I know that sometimes people are like, yeah, we want this PTO stuff working. When it works, it works. I'm not that.
All right, Alex.
I'll take that answer.
My way or the highway, right? My way or the highway. What it's called. Again, PTO, that is not something really I come across. And then if it is, they either using like Bright HR or any HR app that is doing their calendars anyway. So it's not really an issue I see. So sorry, maybe it's different over this side of the pond. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Kristen?
What they said, yeah, pretty much agree. Just use a different system.
Yep. So Mikey? Also, yeah, go buy Autotask just to manage your PTO. Casale would, yeah. Oh, why not? You on Autotask. You'll never hear from them again, but the sales tool will be the most responsive you've ever encountered.
I mean, yeah, I'd like to see Halo tackle being able to sync that information, but equally, I kind of feel like leading calendar management from 365 rather on this rather than trying to go the other way and shoehorn like Halo's record of PTO into an Outlook calendar is probably going to be a better option. We already manage our, PTO and holiday stuff through 365 natively. So yeah, I'm not so fussed if Halo can do it or can't do it, if I'm honest.
Yep. Okay. The next one is in regard to our projects and best practices around billing projects. So this was a community question for semi-fixed fee projects, which I had no idea what that means, to be honest with you. I'm not sure. It's either fixed fee or it's time and materials. I don't know what semi-fixed fee means. That includes service hours, but excluding travel. What billing approaches have proven most effective when you're implementing Halo? And maybe how do tools like billing plan combinations, templates, how can those be leveraged to, improve complex project billing things? I'll go first on this one. I think that people make this way too complicated. A, when they're quoting and building projects, and B, when they're actually billing them out. I have seen some of the wackiest shit you can ever imagine in this regard. And I think that it's either a fixed fee project or it's a time and materials project. And there is maybe a third hybrid option where it's a fixed fee project, but you have a contingency for an overrun on the budget, right? It's as simple as you set up your project fixed fee with budget tables and you use no charge time to deduct from those budget tables if it's a fixed fee project. If it's a time and materials project, you're using charge rates in most cases. And that's really, it doesn't need to be more complicated than that. Alan's.
First, stop having very complicated billing things. Like, what's the point of charging, travel or not, or the first 15 minutes or something like that? I think some of it you're just hurting yourself in some respects, aren't you? It's either billable or not. I think that's what you need to either do. We can also use ticket type. So you could have like a project that the ticket type is fixed fee, and then the other is time and materials. So then you're not having the text to remember what charge rate to use in case you accidentally bill people. But again, stop having weird billing.
And that's a good point. And actually, my solution to that is on the top level project ticket, I put the default charge rate field on it. And I'm like, pick, if it's time and materials, pick whatever default charge rate corresponds to that. If it's not, pick no charge, and then everything's going to inherit that down the line, right? Because that takes the onus off of the agents to have to pick charge rate. Joe.
Again. Yeah. So again, concur with the complexity. People are making things more complicated. So it's like, don't blame the system for the fact that you've invented a way of doing it that is so unique and daft in terms of like, why do you need to overcomplicate it? Overcomplicating it, not only is it a system problem, it's a you problem. It's also a problem that affects your customers, because if you can't understand it and the system can't understand it, your customers won't be able to understand it. And you're setting yourself up for an argument about a project because nobody knew how it worked and what the parameters were. And just on a slight tangent, because while we're talking about stupid, complex systems, people's way of billing out, I've done some implementations and spoken to a lot of MSPs, and I've heard of situations where people go, when I say, how do you bill your support or your IT services, IT management? And they go, well, basically for the first 5 users, it's a certain price, but only if they've got a device each. And if they've got 3 more users above that, we'll charge them for each user and each device. And it's like, what are you doing? Like, why are you making things so much more complicated than they need to be? Just simplify things to make it easy. But in terms of tips on the project management and things like that, again, points made already. Some people use the category 3 or category 4 as another method, so that you can use a time and materials or a fixed fee part to the project. The one example I have seen that, again, I kind of agree with to some degree, although I think it still adds complexity, is that in scope and out of scope. You start a project and you start doing a project and you've got a list of tasks within that project that you're going to do because you agreed that from the outset. Then the customer, while your engineer is doing something, says, "Oh, if you're going to do that, can you tidy the cabinet up?" Right. Okay. We didn't quote for tidying the cabinet up, but we can fall that into the project, but it will be an isolated piece. And we'll basically look at how much time it takes to do that piece, and you'll get billed for that accordingly. So, where there's things like that, scope creep or additional tasks get dumped into a project that you're already doing, that makes sense because it falls part of the remit of the project, but you didn't quote for it under fixed fee. You can use like category 3 or category 4 and set your tickets out so that anything that's within your project is fixed fee. Anything that then gets added on, it defaults to time and material.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. And I think that I've seen a lot of people use category 3, category 4 in that way to pivot billing templates. And that's a really smart thing to do. But it's, I think, a smart thing to do in the context of projects, because that's where things are going to happen ticket level. Because what people need to understand, and what is really difficult to wrap your mind around initially when you're starting with Halo, is that in billing templates, really the only action level field you have is charge rate, right? So if you're using category 3, category 4, and pivot your billing templates on stuff that's not projects, well, if you've got an action that's billable and an action that's not billable in that same ticket, those are not good fields to use for that. But on projects, absolutely, those are great fields to use for that. And yeah, we've done that before quite a few times. Kristen?
No. Yeah, I mean, I think everyone's pretty much said the same things. I was going to say the same thing about, that Joe said about using the categories, and I always advise people to keep it simple and use the charge types, the default charge type against the or charge rates against the ticket type. I think that's a good way to go with projects as well. So yeah, I think everyone's pretty much said it. Keep it simple. Don't overcomplicate it. There's no point in overcomplicating your billing.
And like, if you take nothing away from this 3-hour episode of 5 Halo experts talking about people's mistakes in Halo, that should be what you take away from this. Don't overcomplicate your billing. I have seen just the most ridiculous billing setups that it just would boggle your mind. Like people that a la carte things, and this is part of the stack and this isn't part of the stack, and you can bolt these on, you can do this, but only if they've got 2 siblings and the phase of the moon is, certain, like, oh my God, stop doing that. Like,
We talk to the same customers, Chris. We talk to the same
this is
customers.
not a Halo PSA problem. This is a you problem. You are billing in a crazy way. Now is the time when you move to a new system to be introspective about the way that your business is set up, your model is set up. That complexity and flexibility, your clients do not care about that. I promise you, they do not care. They want to know what their cost is per month per user, or however, your baseline simplistic billing is done. They do not care that it's $1.25 if you have 3 siblings, and if it's a full moon, it's actually going to be $7 per mailbox. Like, nobody cares about that. Keep it simple.
But a lot of companies have set that up right, just to get the customer right in the beginning, like 20 years ago, right? They'd set up some ridiculous billing plan, and they just don't want to change it because they don't want to upset the client. And I'm just like, just change it. Bring them into simple, and just simplified for the customer, simplified for yourself. It'll make your life so much easier, and the client's life so much easier.
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest requests we get most frequently is like, how do every ticket, the first 15 minutes be free and then everything else be billable? Okay, at that point, What are you trying to be? Are you trying to be an all-you-can-eat shop, or are you trying to be a time and materials shop? Because of all of the implementations I've done, I can honestly say the all-you-can-eat model is great for keeping your books showing recurring revenue every month. But the break-fix shops, dollar for dollar, are making way better margin. So don't try to mix the two things. Like, it's 15 minutes of the ticket, because all you're going to do is you're going to attract clients that want that, and then are going to try to exploit that. And then they're going to be mad when you overrun by 5 minutes for a password reset. They're being charged for it or something like that. All that does is serve to remove your agency from the billing process, or I'm sorry, add too much agency to the billing process. The billing process should be largely automated. You should be doing your billing review, and then you should be running your invoices. This should not be, oh, well, this guy's going to get mad if it's 2 minutes over and it's chargeable, so I'm going to just give it to him for free. No, don't do that shit. You're going to hate your life. There's no reason to do that. So sorry, Mikey, your answer.
Yep. I have nothing to add that hasn't already been covered, except really sat here quite bemused trying to figure out what kind of projects they're running where travel needs to be separated. Like, are they running projects where actually they may need to wake up on a Tuesday morning and charter a private jet to a South American country to finalize the project, and it can't be foreseen when you're planning the project?
Thank you. Yeah, if you need to do this and this is not a platform problem. This is you're bad at scoping project problem, right? And this is something that a lot of MSPs really struggle with, scoping projects. Like it's,
No, I'm terrible at scoping projects. Like I avoid doing it because I absolutely suck at being able to scope any kind of project. It's actually one of the reasons that I haven't made a push into the consultancy space, is actually because like trying to actually plan implementations and stuff, like I physically cannot plan projects well.
It's easy to plan the price. It's just $1 million.
$1 million. Okay.
Let me use the rate ventilation. It needs to be at least 10.
Yeah, for real. Okay, so the last one here, rapid fire, is what's one tip or strategy you learned from the community as an implementer that's transformed your perspective or your viewpoint on how you implement Halo for other clients? We'll start with Alex.
Your video on billing plan committee.
Oh man, that got me so much hate mail. You have no idea how pissed off people were about that. Yeah, no contracts, no problems. We're like, you don't necessarily even need contracts in Halo. Very controversial opinion, right? Very hot take. People were not happy with that video. But it's true. You don't necessarily need to use contracts. What's happening on the back end, whether there's a contract or not, with billing templates is the same. The contract adds a layer of abstraction that you don't necessarily need. Now, that's not to say that I don't build most instances with contracts. Nowadays, I do. I don't use any contracts in my instance, but we are a straight all-you-can-eat shop, and it's like our billing is so simple. We don't really need that kind of stuff, right? But yeah,
The only thing I'd say about that is it helps from the profitability reporting piece. It definitely helps because it groups things together quite nicely, like the revenue against the time that's going into those buckets. It definitely helps to make that a bit simpler. Yeah, I was one of those that was watching that video going, "Oh, we could have a fight about this."
I don't really did have a about that, and we started off on the wrong foot in our friendship with them because of that video. But we have a lot of reports that we built now that like kind of compensate for that if people don't want to use the contracts. But 99% of it is a building contract nowadays, right? I'm not prepared to die on that hill anymore.
There's loads of things from the community you can learn, like Connor's video, or Robbie with his video introducing SIP to everyone. And so I know there was the video of Kevin in as well, going over one of their clients and using SIP. There's so obviously I know that's more from a consultant led basis, but there's so much individuals are doing with Halo that are really useful as well to see. But it's good to hopefully see those spotlights, and in the Discord community that set up tours and stuff like that. It'd be really good if that could be used a lot more. People showing off what back to your comment earlier, like my first day as running an MSP, I was in a room with other MSPs sharing knowledge. Well, they were sharing knowledge, and it was probably the nicest room I've been in, with people I thought were competitors but wanted to kill me being there. And same thing as here with Discord. All of the consultants are really nice and helpful. So yeah,
to your face.
To your face. And I slip behind your face. Yes. Now, Kristen.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I echo that. I think I've learned a lot from the community, from Connor's videos, from certainly Chris's video. I think we've all watched that billing video of his. But I think just some of the tips of how consultants and just other people in the industry are kind of automating things, how they're leveraging the APIs and things. I think there's, I've learned a lot about that and learned a lot about kind of things that can be automated and how to automate things. Like Alex was mentioning about the SIP stuff. I didn't even know, how to use SIP like 6 months ago, and now I'm kind of like already using Robbie's video and kind of trying to integrate SIP and all those kind of things. So yeah, I think we all learn together in this community, and like we said right in the beginning, I think as consultants we're all friends. We all share ideas. We all sort of help each other out either through videos or through the Discord or what have you. So yeah, I think there's a lot of cool stuff in there.
Absolutely. And there's only like 7 or 10 of us, right? We all talk. So like if you get on a console call with us and you talk mad shit about somebody else, we're gonna go back and be like, hey, you know what this guy said about you? Like that's good. Like
I think it's been quite interesting seeing how the consultants approach each setup in terms of keeping like what you configure, keeping it kind of fairly tight and fairly based off of a rationale. So when we first got Halo, we really did kind of run through the settings and just sort of click boxes at random to sort of see maybe what happened and hopefully get to a working PSA solution. I'm pleased to say 5 years later, it's about 40% there. So, yeah.
Does that mean you only have 40% of the boxes checked, or?
Yeah, we're working on it. There's a lot of checkboxes, man. Calm down. We haven't even started on drop down.
Oh man.
But it's actually kind of, we changed how we approach any configuration change in Halo. I kind of said earlier, like, as being talked about, the kind of AI agent for text, like went in and turned that on, and then promptly went in, kind of took a screenshot of what it looks like, turned it back off and put in a change control ticket so I can actually turn it on properly in 2 instances. So yeah, adopting a change control methodology to how you configure your Halo instance is probably the single biggest thing I've got from the community. Which is, yeah, it's, if there was a long list of things, if there's a longer list of things I want to get from the community, like, it's going to be like the age old of like, if you use the PowerShell module, sponsor the damn PowerShell module, guys. That thing isn't free to maintain. It takes so much time and nobody gets paid for doing it.
Oh, I didn't know you could actually. Where do you sponsor it? Is it on your?
It's on GitHub.
On GitHub. Okay, I'll go and do that now because I'm guilty. I'm one who's used it and I haven't sponsored it, but only because I didn't know that there was a sponsor link. So
it was under the impression that we were supposed to subscribe to Mikey's OnlyFans. That's what I've been doing this whole time. Apparently, I've been supporting. I'm also
that's a different thing that doesn't let you anything on the module.
I'm also a contributor on that module. What do I get?
You are. And like that's it. Like I say sponsor, but actually contribute. Like there's so many gaps with the module because Halo's API is so big. Like contributing code is as good, if not better, than money. Yeah, 1,000%.
Absolutely. And
contributing bug it does not count as a real contribution. If you just come to me with problems.
If you put a bug in and you have a PR, you better be giving him some.
No, I'm kidding. Like, actually, bug reports are really helpful because I don't have time to test every endpoint. I don't use every endpoint in the module.
Yeah.
And automated testing is a fallacy I thought would happen in the early days of developing the module, which is why there's a framework for it and 3 tests. It's never happening.
So I think my answer here is like starting my Halo journey and configuring our instance was one thing, but it's really difficult to understand and wrap your mind around Halo as a product and as a platform until you've implemented it many times and you see all of the different use cases, that the volume of implementation and seeing many instances of how people use it especially just even if you just hang out in the Discord and you see how people are asking questions about the way that they're using the platform, gives you many different perspectives, which actually I think is probably the most valuable piece of that Discord. It's not, that we're all sitting in there answering everybody's questions and being Halo support, but that you can gain perspective from how everybody is doing things differently inside of Halo. A, it's a testament to how powerful the platform is that, 100 different people can figure it 100 different ways. But B, that, I've actually changed my calculus based on, questions that people have asked. They're doing something that's particularly intelligent or that I would have never come up with myself. Now that's, part of my baseline implementation strategy is, keeping an open mind and being able to see the perspective of all those different people in that Discord is probably makes it the most valuable resource, bar none. Right. So.
I'm just going to fact check on one thing. You said like with 100 people, you'd have Halo configured 100 different ways. Sorry, that's factually incorrect. With 100 people, you're going to have Halo configured 98 different ways and 2 people who can't find any of the settings.
You're right. That's actually 100% accurate. Yeah, exactly.
I was going to echo that point on that. Obviously, from a community, well, a couple of things. So, community and what I've taken, particularly from the consultants community, and the amount of stuff that everyone shares. Runbox is by far the best thing that I've learned as a result of other people and everybody chipping in on different scenarios. 100%. But just to echo your point on the fact that the reason that I want to spend so much more time on the Discord answering questions, and I don't know if anyone, well, I think this is a pretty universal thing. Hopefully everyone feels the same, but I find I learn way better when you're teaching somebody else how to do it. With any subject, if you teach somebody else how to do something, then it sinks in and you learn it way better that way rather than just trying to digest information yourself. Michael, what's your counter?
Oh, I don't have a counterpoint. I'm just that guy who like
is just a contrarian.
Having to slow my brain down enough to teach someone how to do something in a way that they will retain the information in a meaningful sense is physically painful. Like I am really bad at it. Like it's I don't know like where you'd put it, if it's ADHD or something else, but like it really is virtually impossible to get me to like shut up and focus long enough on step by step, where actually I don't get like 2 steps in and be like, oh, a butterfly. Oh. And wonder what.
Yeah, well, it's funny you should say that because I have the same problem in that I get bored really, really quickly and really easily, right? So I hate repetition. I hate anything that's procedure, like, systemized. Not great for a systems implementer, I must say. But in terms of how I keep myself motivated is by teaching someone else. I get bored by doing, but because if I understand something enough, it bores me. But then the additional motivation is if I understand something enough, teaching somebody else and somebody else, if it's a new person, that keeps me motivated because it's new every time, and I keep getting to tick the joke. Yeah, that's it. I agree with that.
That's why I run an MSP is actually like being like every day you can approach the same problem, but every day it's different in a meaningful way that keeps you engaged.
I think it's quite good though as well to teach somebody when you don't know the stuff as that well either, because you really learn that way, right? At least you come across a setting or you come across a checkbox. I mean, it happened in the early days of Halo and sometimes still happens now. You get to a point you're like, I have no idea what that checkbox does. I literally don't know.
That's because like a good percentage of them are literally just labeled checkbox.
Yeah,
there's no
exactly. But I'll go away and learn, and I'll figure it out, and I'll ask questions, and I'll come back, and then I know it, and then I've learned it, and then I can show somebody else. So for me, I think I like to challenge myself by saying, if there's something I don't know about or don't know as well as I should do, I would much rather show somebody how to do it and kind of figure it out as I'm going, because I learned so much more doing that.
Never.
So yeah, for me, it is that repetition, eventually kind of showing that somebody the same thing over and over again, even if you run into the same checkbox error, because you show the next customer, oh crap, there's that bloody checkbox again, and I forgot what it did, or it's moved, or
See,
Okay, lastly, we would love to hear about you and what would be one takeaway you hope listeners like remember from this episode and one tip for success for 2025. Joe.
Okay, so the obvious message that everyone was saying before was keep it simple. Don't overcomplicate things for the sake of overcomplicating it. Try and work out if something's complicated to you, it's complicated to your client. In terms of things to do and look at for 2025, or just a quick simple tip, actually, a couple of quick simple tips. One of the things for me that I've started doing on our own and on other implementations is around the timer. Controversial because, well, depends on what people's perspective is on this. I personally think that you should change the default setting so that the timer doesn't start when you open the ticket. The timer starts when you trigger an action. And the way that we've got that configured is that you have it so you teach your technicians that when they're about to do something, they click the relevant action button and then they do the thing. And then when they finish the action, they save the thing. That should give you the most accurate time recording that you can get. If you're doing it that you're having the timer start when the ticket is viewed, people sit there, they go make a cup of tea, they go to the toilet, they come back, they do an action for a phone call, and suddenly there's 3 or 4 hours worth of time allocated to that because they haven't noticed the timer's been running the whole time. So yeah, just a quick tip rather than the big picture for 2025, but that's what I would do. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think one takeaway I think listeners should remember is I echo what Joe said, keep it simple, stupid. Like there's really no need to overcomplicate anything, whether it be billing or any other process in your business. And the tip that I can share, I think is, just automate, just automate everything as much as you can, and save yourself some time and efficiencies.
Okay, Alex.
So one takeaway I hope you'll take with you is this is your business, or if it's not your business, most of the MSP owners are probably going to be listening to this, but set your package, what do you want to achieve out of your business, and then run with it. I know Joe's given me hindsight of our Monday's talk of one of the clients I've got that isn't following the basics. They don't want MFA, things like that, as long as they acquired something at a company. And this is at the end of the day, it's my business. It's why I wake up every morning to run it. So why should they be telling me what we should be doing, or things like that? So yeah, it's your business. Make sure you do it the way you want to do it.
Okay, what about you, Michael?
So your takeaway, keep that focus on security. It's not going anywhere, but it's remains astounding that in 2025 we're still talking about MFA as if it's somehow optional or onerous. So yeah, keep your focus on security, and don't let clients dictate your security posture, because you're the expert in the relationship. You need to act like it as an MSP. Otherwise, no one's going to accept that you are an expert. Quick tip for success in 2025. Same tip as I would have given you in 2024. Kaseya sucks. If you're using Kaseya products, change.
And Damien's Connect-wise.
Chris, over to you to talk about Oddstage.
I'm not picking it up. I'm just saying what it was like. And I mean, yeah, I agree. I just don't want to be sued. I think I've said enough bad things about Kaseya, and I think I'm on their long list of people that they're going to be suing at the point now. But now
I'm an important assassin, so
yeah, exactly. Well, now that Cola's gone, I hope it's better. Right?
Probably fit into that role.
I've got a tip for TechPulse, buy a camera that stays.
yeah, my quick tip is the Sony ZV-E1. This is the worst thing I've ever spent $100 on. Then do not recommend.
Or if you're this side of the quality, you mean ZVE1.
I don't know what that Z thing means. I don't know. You guys have some kind of irrational fear of the letter Z. That
Yes.
our language, our letter name is used.
Well, okay, so you got S and you got Z, but they both make the S and the Z sound. Like, why? What? Like, does that make sense? I don't know. Anyway, my quick tip for 2025 is if you're thinking about getting into Halo, or you think that Halo is not delivering what you need it to deliver, and you're going to engage a consultant, listen to your consultant. Whether it's Alex, it's Joe, it's Robbie, Connor, it's Chris, Timm, any of us. We've all done it now so many times. We know what works and we know what doesn't work. Now, that doesn't mean that we're going to come in and tell you how to run your MSP, but if you're going to engage a consultant, don't make them build ConnectWise or Autotask in Halo. That's my, I don't know. I get that request a lot. Well, we do it this way in ConnectWise. We just want it to work that way. Well, what's the point of switching platforms at that point, right? And
the flip side of that tip is also true. Listen to your consultant. Don't listen to Mikey. He doesn't know it.
Yeah. Or to follow on what you said, Chris, don't bring your ex into a new relationship, right? Because don't kind of go into a relationship and say, well, my ex did it better because blah, blah, blah. And like, well, then go back to your ex, right? Don't bring your ex into your current relationships. That's all I say.
Yeah. And I think that my one takeaway, that if I want anybody to take away anything from this, I talked about it earlier too, is keep an open mind. Our PSA change is the opportune moment for you to, introspect about your business and think about the way that you're doing things operationally. Bringing automation into it is kind of a no-brainer, right? Like, Halo is the most powerful platform out there. There's not even a competition. No one else is anywhere close. Harness that, right? Automation isn't just about doing things faster or doing things without X touching them. It's about error reduction. It's about improving service delivery, right? So don't use your PSA move or changing PSAs to just change ticketing systems. To make that an entire project about redoing the way that you do things internally. Be open to automation, be open to operational changes, because now's the time to do it when you're moving from ConnectWise or Autotask over to Halo. Restructure those processes so they make sense, so that they're modernized. Because if you don't, and you realize a year or 2 years, 3 years down the line that you need to,
so well. You made that amazing, impactful moment.
We need that in speech, man.
And in the recording, you can't hear his conclusions, but in the back screen, we can. It was a blinder, but you'll never hear it. No, I'm kidding. Us too. We'll just picking up on Chris's point there, though. It's also an opportunity. Changing PSA is a great opportunity that we use to work out that actually every other MSP can do the same tech we can. And actually service qualities, reminding yourselves that we are, first and foremost, a customer service industry and not really a technical one. The tech is secondary. But actually service quality is more important than all your service delivery metrics about time and billing are great for running a profitable business. But you also need to be measuring your service quality. And actually, how do your customers feel about your service? Because I've seen phenomenally profitable MSPs, and I eat their lunch every day by taking their customers away because their customers are deeply unhappy, profitable, get their issues resolved in a timely fashion, but are very unhappy with the experience.
Yep, absolutely. And I think that's a good note to end on before the camera dies yet again. So everybody, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate the insights. Hopefully there's going to be a third integrator roundtable, and Robbie and Connor will be able to join us, and we'll have a different camera by then. Obviously, we really appreciate everybody's, input and guidance here, in the community. Please reach out to us in the Discord if you have questions. We're all here to help you guys, succeed in your Halo journey. The folks from Halo, reach out to us, get our input. We're happy to, work with them at any level. So really appreciate everybody's time today, and thank you. And we'll see you guys all soon.